Chapter 324. Yi Haochen ignored him, looked at Zhao Xueqing and said affectionately, "Qing'er, you misunderstood me. I don't think of you as one of those greedy and vulgar women. I just want to give us some space to be alone. I want you to live a better life. I want you to have someone to entrust your feelings to. Come with me to my room. We can talk slowly. I've always missed the simple and beautiful life in school. You miss the simple and beautiful life of the past? It can be seen how miserable you are now, haha." Zhao Xueqing stood up. Her laughter was as beautiful as heavenly music, but she was actually very angry. "My feelings are all with my husband. I don't need to entrust them to a vulgar thing like you. It's rare to see a daydreaming man like you." This anger not only came from Yi Haochen's belittling of her, but also from the destruction of a beautiful life. Yes, in her heart, the ideal and perfect senior with lofty aspirations, who could do anything, completely collapsed. She didn't expect him to have become so greasy, vulgar, and even dirty. "Qing'er, I won't let you go. I know you're hiding your feelings for me." Yi Haochen blocked the entrance of the booth. "Please get out of the way." Qing'er frowned. She was annoyed. "What if I don't move?" "You." Qing'er couldn't believe it. She really didn't expect the most handsome senior of the past, the current crown prince of Zhonghai, to become such a scoundrel. How was the current Yi Haochen different from Li Pengtao and Lu Wangfeng, who were drooling over her beauty? However, Qing'er was different. She was no longer that weak girl who could be bullied, but a powerful cultivator, a supreme beauty who could sweep through the world. "I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. If you don't move, I'll make a move." Qing'er shouted angrily. "What did you say?" Yi Haochen was slightly stunned, and then suddenly became angry. He shouted at the top of his lungs, "Qing'er, if you were happy, I would definitely not appear in front of you. But, how could you marry a trash like Jiang Tian? He beats people, eats, drinks, gambles, everything. How can such a man be worthy of you? And how can he give you happiness?" But in the next moment, Qing'er had already slapped him. Pa! With a bang, Yi Haochen flew out like a scarecrow, smashing 4 or 5 tables. Everyone was shocked and looked over. They were dumbfounded and didn't dare to believe their eyes. Qing'er lazily clapped her hands and said coldly, "Whether he's a lunatic or a hedonist, even if he's a devil who kills people like flax, you have no right to talk about him." Everyone was dumbfounded. "Young Master Ye's charm doesn't work?" Wang Quan's mouth was wide open in disbelief. Su's strength. His face was shocked. Why did he beat him? "It's over. I'm going to be scolded by young Master Ye's father this time." Su Jie was flabbergasted. Her scalp went numb and her heart was on tenterhooks. "Who is of this woman?" "He, of course. Of him, Yi." Everyone had different expressions, but most of them didn't look too good. On one hand, they didn't expect Yi Haochen's charm to be rebuffed by this girl. On the other hand, they were shocked by Qing'er's terrifying strength. She sent someone flying with one slap. How terrifying was her strength? Was she still human? She was practically a female King Kong. "How dare you provoke Master Kang's wife, he. Only Han Yan gloated and shrugged, saying, "Serves you right." Zhao Xueqing angrily turned around and walked to the door of the bar. As if they felt the terrifying murderous intent, the few people blocking her retreated, not daring to stop her. Suddenly, she turned around and stared at Yi Haochen. "If you dare say another word about him, I'll kill you." Her voice was cold, like the sound of a sword. "Tisk, Qing'er is still very protective of me." Jiang Tian, who was at the door of the bar, saw this scene and his heart was filled with tenderness. He was too lazy to come in. "Young Master Yi, how's the situation? Do you want to go to the hospital?" After Zhao Xueqing left, everyone came to their senses and helped Yi Haochen up, asking with concern. Yi Haochen was bleeding from his mouth and his molars were loosened. However, Qing'er had used her strength and it was not a big deal. At this moment, the humiliation he felt was far greater than the pain. He suddenly stood up and pushed everyone aside. He said angrily, "Han Yan, which room are she and her husband in?" "Speak." "The presidential suite on the top floor." Han Yan didn't hide it and said expressionlessly, "Since Yi Haochen wanted to court death, then Yi Haochen might as well give him a thorough death." "Young Master Yi, Let's not be calculative with a girl. Her husband is not easy to deal with. My Sherlong probably didn't want to make a big deal out of it, and tried to persuade him with a smile. After all, although Master Kong was powerful, this was Singapore. And this time, Singapore had received the Zhonghai delegation with high standards. It was likely that Singapore would send a large number of police officers to control Jiangtian. For Jiangtian, it would be very troublesome. They're nothing. If I don't kill this bitch today, I'll take his surname. Yi Haochen shouted angrily. Su Yuhang, are you stupid? Why didn't you stop him just now? Young Master Yi, I think that's your old flame. It was like a fight between a couple. I'm really. Su Yuhang smiled and said uneasily. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's take care of them together. Yi Haochen rushed upstairs in a huff. Brothers, go to the presidential suite on the top floor. Young Master Yi was beaten up. Su Yuhang took out his walkie-talkie and said something. Jiang Tian had just entered the room and chatted with Qing'er for a while to figure out Yi Haochen's background. Suddenly, with a bang, the door was kicked open. Surrounded by 7 or 8 bodyguards in black, Yi Haochen, Su Yuhang, Wang Quan, and the other young masters marched straight in. They looked down at Jiang Tian and his wife like ferocious tigers intimidating little white rabbits. The other rich young masters crowded in the corridor outside the door to cheer for Yi Haochen. At the same time, they wanted to see Yi Haochen torture this unfortunate couple. You dare to kick my door? You've got guts. Jiang Tian sipped his red wine and looked coldly at the 3 people who didn't know what was good for them. Brat, your wife just hit young Master Yi. You better kneel down and apologize to young Master Yi. Otherwise you'll get it. Wang Quan said angrily. Do you know who young Master Yi is? He's Yi Cheetah's grandson and Mayor Ye's son. How dare you hit him? You really don't know what's good for you. Su Yuhang clenched his fists and twisted his neck. Suddenly, a murderous aura surged out. He gritted his teeth and sneered evilly. Do you know that our delegation is an important guest of Singapore? We can even talk to Mayor Yi and the Prime Minister of Singapore. One phone call from us and your wife will go to jail for 8 to 10 years. Haha, you can try. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently. Jiang Tian, is it? A spoiled brat from Jinling dares to challenge young Master Yi? You're asking for it. Su Jia crossed her arms and said with disdain. How about this? Let Qing'er go to young Master Ye's room and have a good chat to resolve the misunderstanding. Young Master Yi is not an ordinary person. He has a big heart. I don't think young Master Yi will hold it against you. So Jiang Tian is from Jinling. Meanwhile, Han Yan'er, who had been staring at Jiang Tian for a long time, suddenly felt a jolt in her heart. Could he be the legendary Master Kong of Jinling? She suddenly thought of a possibility and her heart skipped a beat. Su Jia. Zhao Xueqing was so angry that her face turned pale. It seemed that Yi Haochen's coveting of her had something to do with Su Jia. Su Yuhang, Wang Quan, Yi Haochen. These 3 families are powerful enough to dominate the entire Zhonghai, and even the entire Yangtze River Delta. How can a spoiled brat like you compare with them? Some of the rich young masters looked at Jiang Tian with sympathy, while others looked at him with mockery. That was the tragedy of the week. He couldn't even protect his wife when she was being harassed. He might even have to send his wife out to spend the night with her. Yi Haochen lit up a cigarette and started to smoke. He was silent, but his heart was filled with joy. What will he do? Will he give Qing'er to me with a face full of humiliation and unwillingness? Or will he jump up and be beaten up by Su Yuhang? But if he makes a move, then he's done for. Su Yuhang is not an ordinary person. He retired from Battle Dragon, and has the cultivation of the peak of iron body. Yi Haochen, right? In my opinion, he's just a piece of trash. Under everyone's complicated gaze, Jiang Tian slowly stood up and said, How dare you touch my woman? You must be tired of living. I'll do it. Qing'er rubbed her hands together. Yo, you're really shameless. Young Master Yi has already given you a chance. If you continue like this, don't blame us for being rude. Wang Quan said with a grim smile. Forget it, I'll do it. Beating up this kind of trash will dirty your hands. Jiang Tian slowly stretched out his jade-white palm, looked at Wang Quan who was smiling proudly and sneered. I hope after I break your limbs, you can still smile so brightly. Before his voice fell, Jiang Tian stepped forward, grabbed Wang Quan's arm, and gently twisted it. Crack! A hair-raising bone-breaking sound was clearly heard. Wang Quan's arm was broken like a hemp pole, bent in a strange arc, and blood flowed out. What? Everyone was stupefied as they watched all of this with their mouths agape. Even Yi Haochen was shocked and took a step back. That was Wang Quan. Among the many young masters in Zhonghai, his influence was ranked in the top 10. Moreover, he was a member of the legal profession. His family held important positions in the public security, procuratorial, and judicial field. If an ordinary person touched him, they would be sent to prison and sentenced to 8 to 10 years. Wang Quan reacted at this time, and let out a hoarse scream. He stumbled backward and knocked over the wine cabinet. A few bottles of red wine smashed on the ground and smashed into pieces. A strong wine aroma wafted through the air. He looked at Jiang Tian with a horrified face, and said with a trembling voice, You dare to hit me?" He couldn't believe that the other party would hit him. One must know that Wang Quan had been in Zhonghai for so many years, and could be said to be famous in the entire Yangtze River Delta region. Many financial giants and tycoons had to avoid him. Even when facing a top martial arts family like Jiangzhi Yi family, no one would dare to touch him. Chapter 325. However, Jiang Tian had directly broken one of his arms because of a disagreement. This was something that he did not dare to believe. This scene also shocked everyone. Jiang Tian actually attacked Wang Quan so directly, which made them unable to come back to their senses, and did not react for a long time. Su Yuhang, who was diagonally facing Jiang Tian, suddenly narrowed his eyes. Jiang Tian's move just now was too straightforward, breaking someone's arm like it was a game. His strength was already far beyond ordinary people. Could he be a martial artist? Su Yuhang was skeptical. However, he had yet to react. A mere ant dares to be disrespectful to me. You're really tired of living. Jiang Tian had already stepped forward again and said coldly, I said I would break your limbs. You're still lacking a bit. Like an eagle catching a chick, he grabbed Wang Quan and gently twisted his right hand again. With a crack, the crisp sound of bones breaking rang out again, which made one's hair stand on end. Wang Quan's other arm also hung down like a dead snake. You. How can you be so ruthless? Wang Quan's face was filled with fear at this time, looking at Jiang Tian with a terrified gaze, as if the person in front of him was a great demon god. He stumbled and fell to the ground, letting out an earth-shattering howl, rolling on the ground in pain. You're a lunatic. How can you be so heavy-handed? Su Jie was even more horrified as she pointed at Jiang Tian and said angrily, Stop it. Do you know who you're beating? Of course I know. Jiang Tian's feet did not stop as he lazily closed in on Wang Quan. Don't come over. Stop it. My father is Wang Tianhe. My grandfather is Wang Jiangping. Wang Quan screamed miserably, his face as pale as paper, his hair disheveled, his face covered in blood, and his legs moving backward. He even suspected that Jiang Tian would not hesitate to kill him. Sorry, I've never heard of it. Since you dare to provoke me, you'll have to pay the price. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Stop. Su Yuhang roared. He was so angry that his eyes were about to crack. However, Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to him and stomped down again. The power of his kick was so terrifying that even a piece of granite could be shattered into countless pieces. Suddenly, with a shrill scream and the crisp sound of bones breaking, Wang Quan's calf was bleeding and bent back in a shocking arc. White bone stubble pierced through his skin and was exposed. Moreover, it was definitely a comminuted fracture. Even a deity would find it difficult to treat it. Everyone present was dumbfounded. He didn't hesitate to break Yi Haochen's arms and legs. He didn't show any mercy to Yi Haochen at all. Moreover, this was Wang Quan, one of the top 10 young masters in Zhonghai. Seeing this scene, Su Yohang's face turned red with anger. He said angrily, Your Excellency is too ruthless. Do you want him to spend the rest of his life in a sickbed? Yeah. Jiang Tian put on a matter-of-fact face and said lightly, So many good men from the Zhonghai Police Bureau and you, a former member of the Battle Dragon Special Forces, want me to do the same, don't you? Why can't you accept it when it's your turn? You know who I am? Who are you? Su Yuhang was shocked. The Battle Dragon Special Forces was the trump card of the military. Most of their missions were top secret. Therefore, their identities were kept a secret. Even though Su Yuhang had been retired for more than 3 years, no one had the right to decrypt his files except for the first, second, and political commissar. But who was this person? It was strange that he could find out who he was. I am very disappointed in you. It is a disgrace to the Battle Dragon Special Forces to have a soldier like you. Jiang Tian didn't bother to pay attention to him and stomped on Wang Quan's calf again. How dare you? Su Yuhang couldn't sit still this time. Su Yuhang was responsible for the security of this visit. It could be said that he had seriously failed in his duty when Yi Haochen was beaten and Wang Quan's arms and legs were broken. At this time, how could he show mercy? Boom. He stomped on the ground and the solid wooden floor cracked inch by inch. Amidst the flying sawdust, he pounced out like a ferocious tiger and smashed his fist towards Jiang Tian's back. With this punch, the sound of sonic booms could be heard incessantly. A cold fist wind swept out in all directions, making it difficult for people to breathe. They all subconsciously held their breaths. Everyone felt their faces being cut by the fist wind. There was even a serious feeling of suffocation. Who is this guy? What a terrifying punch. Countless people screamed in their hearts. Yi Haochen, who knew Su Yuhang's true background, had a sinister smile on his face. This is a punch from a Battle Dragon Special Forces expert. Even if Jiang Tian has some skills, he's just an amateur. How can he be a match for such a professional? Jiang Tian didn't stop. He kept his word and broke Wang Quan's last leg. Then he leisurely turned around and slapped Su Yuhang's face. Slap. Boom. Su Yuhang was like a baseball that had been sent flying. He flew more than 10 meters and crashed heavily into the wall behind the TV. Even after smashing the LCD TV into pieces, his momentum didn't stop. He also crashed into the wall until it cracked inch by inch and sank into a large pit. Only then did he powerlessly slide to the ground and sit down. Let's go. Su Yuhang roared angrily. Take him down. 7 or 8 bodyguards roared and pulled out their batons. They came from all directions and smashed towards Jiang Tian. Trash. Jiang Tian sneered and punched and kicked. Bang. 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 In the blink of an eye, everyone fell to the ground and lost their ability to fight. Who are you? Su Yuhang sat against the wall, clutching his chest. His eyes were full of shock and disbelief. The bodyguards he brought with him were all masters of the Guard Bureau. 2 of them were even martial artists of the Iron Body State. However, they were no match for Jiang Tian. Yi Haochen was indeed the Prince of Zhonghai. Even at this moment he was still calm. He gave Su Jie a wink and called an ambulance to send the injured to the hospital. Call the police. I don't believe that we can't take care of this maniac, a tycoon said with a cold smile. Hold on. Han Yena said. Yin Air, what do you mean? Why are you siding with a country bumpkin from Jin City? A tycoon glared at her and said coldly. Don't embarrass yourself. Han Yener furrowed her brows and said. You are no match for Master Kong of Jin City. Isn't that right, Master Kong? Han Yener looked at Jiang Tian and gave him a flirtatious smile. What? He is Master Kong of Jin City? Many tycoons were shocked. Zhonghai was a first-tier city in Wuxia. It was a financial center and an economic hub. Even the secretary of Zhonghai had access to the central government bureau. The tycoons in Zhonghai made up 5 of the top 10 richest people on the Forbes list. Zhonghai's status was second only to Yanjin, and it was even higher than Yangcheng. In the eyes of many tycoons in Zhonghai, Jin City was a small place that was not worth mentioning. It was just a provincial capital. Therefore, although the Jiangsu province, Jiangxi province, and Zhonghai were all located in the Yangtze River Delta region, they didn't pay much attention to Jin City. They only heard that there was a Master Kong in Jin City who had defeated the Nia family and helped the Medicine King group and the Jiang family rise to power. However, they didn't know what Master Kong looked like or what he was capable of. What? You are Master Kong of Jin City? Yi Haochen was also shocked. He looked at Jiang Tian incredulously. For the first time, he realized that Jiang Tian, whom he had treated as an ant, was actually a giant beast. At this moment, he finally understood some of the puzzling information that he had previously investigated. For example, why did a small company like Zhao's pharmaceutical company come up with such a powerful product called skin toner? Why did Zhao's pharmaceutical company get such a huge order and sell it to the Medicine King Group at a price of 1 billion? He also knew that the Jiang family had defeated the 3 most powerful families in Jin City. Even Feng Zhanbua, the most powerful financial magnate in Hong Kong, had been beaten to a pulp. Jiang Tian was the instigator and manipulator of that battle. Therefore, he was far more powerful than Yi Haochen. Yes, I am. So what? Jiang Tian picked up a glass of red wine from the table and took a sip. No wonder he had the confidence to ignore young Master Yi and young Master Wang. For a moment, everyone present looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief, their eyes filled with shock. He was a tycoon who had dominated Jin City and crushed the Nie family, Chen family, and the Sun family. Even though they lived in Zhonghai, they had heard all kinds of rumors about Master Kong. Rumor had it that he had even subdued Su Zhenlei, a martial arts grandmaster of Jinling. Every rumor had it that Grandmaster Jiang was a peerless tyrant who could swallow 10,000 li like a tiger. However, they had never thought that he would be such an ordinary young man. He didn't look like a tycoon who dominated Jin City. No wonder my Shilong and Han Yan were so eager to please him when they ran into him at the airport. Su Yuhang and a few other powerful fighters from the Zhonghai Guard Bureau looked at Jiang Tian in fear. He had dared to fight with the Master Kong of Jin City. If he hadn't shown mercy, he would have been killed. No wonder Zhao Xueqing didn't care about Yi Haochen. Her husband is so powerful. The Medicine King Group is worth hundreds of billions. How could Yi Haochen compare? By then, Su Jie's look at Zhao Xueqing had changed. The sympathy and disdain had disappeared and were replaced by envy and shock. At least in terms of wealth, Yi Haochen was no match for the crown prince of the Jiang family. Grandmaster Jiang, I've offended the expert this time. I apologize to you. Yi Haochen suppressed the shock in his heart and saluted. I was worried that Qing'er was not doing well. That's why this misunderstanding happened. Misunderstanding? Jiang Tian's shout was like a sudden clap of thunder, and it shocked everyone present. Even an idiot would know that this was a compromise. Yi Haochen had already given in. Did he want to escalate the conflict? Chapter 326. Jiang Tian looked at him with a playful smile and said, Yi Haochen, you know better than me whether it's a misunderstanding or not. You know better than me what kind of dirty thoughts you have in your heart. Yi Haochen's face went blank. Anger slowly gathered in his heart, but he hid it well. Jiang Tian sipped his wine and said leisurely, Yi Haochen, now that you've lost your men, do you regret messing with me? Although Yi Haochen had suffered a loss, his aura was not weak at all. Instead, he smiled coldly, and then his face darkened as he laughed sinisterly. Jiang Tian, I was wrong about you. I didn't expect you to be so skilled and have such a powerful background. But in this world, you can't do anything just because you have money. I'm telling you now you're in danger. Oh, I'm in danger? I would like to hear the details. Jiang Tian looked at him with interest and said with a faint smile. Wang Quan's family. His father is Wang Tianhe, the founder of the famous Tongxin law firm in Zhonghai. His grandfather, Wang Jiangping, retired from his position as the president of the Zhonghai High Court, a second-class judge, and a member of the judicial committee, but his influence is still there. Many lawyers and judges in the country are his disciples. How do you think the Wang family will deal with you after you beat his only grandson? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked. Zhonghai was a first-tier city. The president of the Zhonghai High Court was so powerful that he could sit on the same level as the governor of the Zhonghai High Court. With such a background, it was no wonder that Wang Quan and Yi Haochen were called the top 10 young lords of Zhonghai. Oh really? In my opinion, he's just a piece of trash. Jiang Tian said with disdain. Chao Shixiang and Su Province's secretary, you were on the same level as him. What was a mere Wang family to him? Of course, the Wang family might not be worthy of your attention, but what about the Su family? Yi Haochen smiled mysteriously. Su family? What Su family? Many tycoons looked at Su Yuhang in confusion. Wasn't he sent by the Guard Bureau to be in charge of security? Did he have a powerful background? Yi Haochen threw out a heavy bomb and sneered. He used to serve in the Battle Dragon Special Forces of the Supreme Staff Department. He is now the deputy captain of the Silver Fox Special Forces of the Jinling Military Region. He is a lieutenant colonel before the age of 30. The smile on his face grew wider and wider as he proudly said. His father is the second most important person in the Zhonghai Garrison Force. Major General Su is one of the top 5 people in the Jinling Military Region. What? He is Silver Fox's vice captain. His father is Major General Su. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. Even Han Yan, and Mai Shilong felt uneasy. I didn't expect Su Yuhang to have such a powerful background. I'm a lieutenant colonel, and my father is a major general. With such a powerful background, it's very likely that he will be promoted to a general in the future. I didn't expect young Master Su to have such a powerful background. Everyone's face was filled with awe, and they were secretly speechless. Even Mai Shilong and Han Yan looked worried. Wang Quan and Su Yohang's background was too powerful. Even if Jiang Tian dominated Jinling City, it was enough to make him suffer. Not to mention that Yi Haochen was the instigator behind all this. Plus, who could stop Yi Haochen? The Yi family was one of the top families in Zhonghai. His father was the mayor of Zhonghai, a first-tier municipality. He had a high chance of entering the central government bureau in the future. Not to mention that Yi Qida was a super big shot. It could be said that the Yi family was worlds apart from the Nie family and the Chen family in Jinling City. Even the Tang family, the Bai family, and the Tai family in Lingnan paled in comparison. Not to mention that the Jiang family had only risen for a few days, and their core member was only Jiang Zhixing, a government official. The gap was too big. At this time, the ambulance arrived. Everyone made way for the medical staff to carry Wang Quan and a few seriously injured people away. Yi Haochen, is this your trump card? Jiang Tian looked at him with a face full of mockery and said calmly and slowly, in your eyes, these are enough for you to rely on, but in my eyes, it's just something that can be destroyed with a single punch. Yi Haochen was slightly stunned, then said disdainfully, Jiang Tian, you're really arrogant. Do you know that if this was in Wuxia, you'd already be arrested and imprisoned? Even your family would be affected. You can try. Jiang Tian laughed. You think that if you stay in Singapore and don't return to China, these methods won't work on you? Yi Haochen bit down on the 3-character Chenghua, took a deep breath, and then said calmly, but in Singapore, you still can't hide. My father led a business delegation to visit Singapore, and the vice premier personally received him. Even in Singapore, you'll still be brought to justice by the Singapore police. Jiang Tian sipped the red wine and said indifferently, Okay. I'll wait for you to arrest me. The day after tomorrow, I'll go to Princess Jenny to play. Use whatever methods you have. Don't hold back. After that, Jiang Tian looked around at everyone and said indifferently, the same goes for all of you. Everyone was dumbfounded. They couldn't believe it. It could be said that half of the top tycoons in Zhonghai had joined the delegation this time. Didn't Jiang Tian's words mean that he would become the enemy of the entire upper class of Zhonghai? That was too arrogant and unbridled. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Even a hero can't win against so many people. Jiang Tian didn't even have the confidence to win against the 3 great clans, let alone so many top clans and powers. If each of them took a bite, it would be enough to destroy the Jiang clan. Why aren't you getting out of here? Jiang Tian took a step forward and patted Yi Haochen's cheek. It wasn't a heavy slap, but it was full of humiliation. Yi Haochen's lungs were about to explode. He waved his hand and said, let's go. Then he left in a huff. Damn, Master Kong is so domineering. Someone among the crowd gave him a thumbs up. They were worried that Yi Haochen would hear them, so they didn't dare to speak too loudly, but their admiration and excitement were overflowing. Many people still didn't understand how Jiang Tian could dominate Jinling City, but his arrogance and domineering attitude showed the domineering aura and style of an ambitious and ruthless person. Breaking Wang Quan's 4 limbs without saying a word might be a little reckless, and he might not be able to withstand the upcoming storm. However, just the fact that the Yi clan, the Wang clan, and the Su clan treated him as an opponent, a mortal enemy, was enough for him to be proud of. Alas, it's amazing that he can achieve this, but he's too reckless and impulsive. Doesn't he know that the strong are easy to break? Su Jie sighed and shook her head with a complicated expression. Finally, a trace of mockery appeared at the corner of her mouth. In fact, Yi Haochen coveted Zhao Xueqing, but he didn't have the slightest advantage over her. Jiang Tian directly threw out the identity of Jinling City's Master Kong, and that was enough to make Yi Haochen back off. However, Jiang Tian had severely injured Wang Quan and Su Yuhang, offending a lot of big shots in Zhonghai. His actions were too stupid. It was not necessary at all. Who knew that in Jiang Tian's eyes, there was no need to move his feet when encountering such insignificant insects. He could just stomp them to death. I wonder how Grandmaster Jiang is going to deal with the upcoming storm tomorrow. Many people sighed softly. Alas, Yen'er, what are you laughing at? Seeing Han Yen, staring at the phone with excitement in her eyes, my Shilong was anxious. He pulled her into the room and said anxiously, Master Kong is in trouble this time. Why don't we find him a boat, and let him sneak back to Wuxia? Yi Qida and Li Xianlong, the Prime Minister of Singapore, have a good relationship with him. He also knew that Jiang Tian had great influence in Jinling City, but this was Singapore. The Yi family was in charge here, and Jiang Tian would not be able to take advantage of them. What could Jiang Tian do to the police in Singapore? Shilong, I didn't tell you about Jiang Tian's true power. Han Yen'er chuckled and said, if the photos sent by my friends in Singapore are true, then even if Yi Qida or Li Xianlong were to come, they would not be able to suppress Grandmaster Jiang. They would only be defeated. What did you say? My Shilong was dumbfounded. The Guo family has been destroyed, and even Grandmaster Wang Chongyan has fallen in the hands of Grandmaster Jiang. Han Yen'er took out her phone and showed him a blurry photo. In the photo, Li Xianlong was leading all the officials and tycoons of Singapore to bow deeply to Jiang Tian, who was sitting on the throne. Even Guo Lily and many other young talents were kneeling on the ground in worship. Han Yen'er glanced at the shocked Mai Shilong and smiled slyly. See, this is the crowning ceremony of the State Preceptor of Singapore. Master Kong is not only the #1 martial arts grandmaster in Wuxia, but he is also the president of the Chinese Association of Singapore, the State Preceptor of Singapore, and the King of Singapore. Are you serious? Martial arts and spells have such great influence? Mai Shilong still could not believe it. After everyone left, Jiang Tian found that Jiang Wan'er was sleeping soundly in the suite, so he smiled. He had just used a soundproof talisman, so nothing that happened in the room could be heard in the suite. Just as he was about to go to bed, Jenny knocked on the door and entered. She stared at Zhao Xueqing and said in surprise, Master Kong, is this your wife? She was really shocked. In fact, the Hilton family had a lot of business in Wuxia. She had seen many famous celebrities in Wuxia, but she had never seen such a beautiful Chinese woman. She was like the elves in The Lord of the Rings. She was otherworldly and full of spiritual aura. No wonder Master Kong loved her so much. It seemed that she had no chance. Yes. Jiang Tian nodded and introduced the woman to Zhao Xueqing. This is Jenny Hilton from the Hilton family in the United States. She is in charge of the management of the Guo family's assets. Jenny greets Madame Jiang. Jenny respectfully stepped forward and bowed deeply. Miss Jenny, you are too polite. Please get up. Qing'er quickly helped her up. Jenny smiled and said, Mr. Jiang, let me help you change to another room. There seems to be a fight here just now. Okay, change to another room. Jiang Tian nodded. Jenny immediately asked the staff to open another presidential suite on the top floor, and let Jiang Tian and his wife in with Jiang Wan'er, who was sleeping soundly. After everything was settled, Jenny frowned and said, That Wuxia guy called young Master Yi went to look for my sister. He wants to kick you out of the hotel. Hee, this kid. Jiang Tian shook his head mockingly and said, I think your sister will take care of it. He will be rebuffed. Chapter 327. And don't worry. You're the benefactor of the Hilton family. No one will disturb you. Seeing that it was getting late, Jenny said goodnight and walked out of the room. After Jenny left, the room fell silent. Qing'er tugged at Jiang Tian and said apologetically, Jiang Tian, I'm really sorry. Did I upset you? Why would I be upset? Jiang Tian held his wife's slender waist and smiled. When I was in university, I admired and appreciated Yi Haochen a lot. But I promise you, I didn't have any feelings for him. Qing'er said nervously. Qing'er, I can only say that I'm really sorry. Jiang Tian gazed deeply into her eyes and said, at that time, you were all alone and had no one to rely on. But I didn't appear in advance to protect you and help you. This was also the reason why he left some leeway for Yi Haochen. After all, Yi Haochen had helped Qing'er before. If he was just a simple lecher like Lu Wangfeng and Li Pingtao, Jiang Tian would have killed him long ago. For Qing'er's sake, Jiang Tian didn't kill him. He wanted him to calm down and retreat. This matter would be over just like that. But if he dared to act rashly again, Jiang Tian would definitely kill him. Heh, you appeared in advance to beat me, scold me, and bully me. Zhao Xueqing rolled her eyes at him, but her eyes were full of love. Jiang Tian's words were very simple, but she could feel Jiang Tian's deep apology and feelings for her. This made her heart feel warm and sweet. Ahem. Jiang Tian coughed twice to hide his embarrassment. Qing'er raised her chin proudly and said with a cute and naive face, but my cultivation is now stronger than yours. If you try to bully me again, I'll beat you until you're looking for your teeth on the ground. Jiang Tian was speechless. This was the truth. All right, I know you've changed for the better. Besides, my cultivation was taught by Master Kong. Qing'er patted Jiang Tian's head, her beautiful eyes rippling, full of emotion, and said with a tender and sweet face, oh. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. He felt that this girl was digging a hole for him. Don't you feel like you're caught in a trap of your own making? You have a fierce wife at home, so you don't dare to go out to find women, right? As expected, Zhao Xueqing said with a smirk. Ahem, comrade old Zhao, don't be too proud. I've found the metal and wood spirit cores, and I'm about to reconstruct my physical body and become the Gung metal divine body. That's also one of the 12 immortal bodies. Jiang Tian said with a chuckle. What? You can really reconstruct your physical body? Zhao Xueqing was ecstatic. She pulled Jiang Tian and asked with interest. After chatting for a while, Zhao Xueqing suddenly said with emotion, I really didn't expect Yi Haochen to become such a bad person. The perfect collapse of your former idol. You don't feel good in your heart, right? Jiang Tian could understand Qing'er's feelings of loss. This kind of feeling had nothing to do with romance. It was just that, who didn't hope that the white-clothed youth and charming girl of the innocent era could still maintain that beauty and purity when they met again many years later? Most people adhered to the mentality of, I hope you leave for half your life and return as a youth. But the prime of life no longer came, and people were no longer young. Often, those former idols and goddesses couldn't withstand the cruel carving knife of time. They became greasy, sophisticated, and even dirty, just like Mu Yinqing, who he met. The only idol in my heart is my husband, and you will never collapse. Qing'er pulled Jiang Tian's hand and walked to the window. She stood side by side with Jiang Tian, and looked down at the myriad of lights. Bang! Outside the window, on both sides of the Strait of Malacca, fireworks rose bright and gorgeous. It's the new year. Jiang Tian held Qing'er's small hand and tightened it again. He opened the window, wanting to see more clearly. He didn't expect that on New Year's Eve, in a foreign country, he could also see fireworks. Moreover, he was accompanied by his beloved wife, which made him feel happy and at ease. A breeze blew, raising his beloved wife's hair like a waterfall. Bang, bang, bang. Clusters of fireworks bloomed, and the flickering light shone on Qing'er's peerless and delicate face, making the lines of her face look softer and more soul-stirring. I'm willing to stand side by side with you, watching this picturesque world, even if I have to be the enemy of the whole world. A trace of firmness appeared on Qing'er's face, but her eyes were filled with happiness and satisfaction as she murmured. Against the backdrop of the bright fireworks, the Hilton Hotel overlooking the Strait of Malacca stood out among the many high-rise buildings. In the presidential suite on the top floor, in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, a man and a woman looked down at the world, hugging each other tightly. It was a picturesque scene. Miss Paris, I'm Yi Haochen, the company representative of Wuxia Zhonghai's delegation to Singapore, the chairman of Zhonghai Jiqing Investment. After Wang Quan and Su Yuhang were sent to the hospital, Yi Haochen immediately rushed to Paris's office, handed over his business card, and sat down with one leg crossed over the other. He smiled and said, "When Miss Paris opened a branch in Zhonghai, she invited me 3 times. You should have some impression of me." He was a bit proud. Although Paris was a world-class socialite, he was known as the Prince of Zhonghai, and the Hilton Hotel had 5 branches in Zhonghai. How could they not treat a local tyrant like him with respect? "I'm sorry, I really don't remember you." Paris threw the business card into the trash can and said with a mocking smile, "Gah." Yi Haochen was immediately defeated, and his face was full of embarrassment. Was his identity as the Prince of Zhonghai not useful in front of Paris? Even if it wasn't useful, you didn't have to throw it into the trash can, right? You're not taking me seriously, right? Did you not have basic business etiquette? Paris stretched and frowned impatiently. "Mr. Yi, what's the matter? Hurry up and say it. I'm really sleepy. I'm going to rest. Just now at the bar downstairs, I was beaten up by your guests. We went to reason with them, and 2 of my good friends were also injured." Yi Haochen's face was gloomy. As the world's best high-end hotel chain, Hilton Hotel can't even guarantee the basic safety of its guests. "I'm very disappointed. Also, I'm a gold card user of your hotel. Every time I go out, I stay at your hotel. My annual expenses are over $1 million USD. There's such a thing? That's too barbaric, too unbelievable. I want to know more about it." Paris already knew everything, but she still picked up the phone and pretended to ask. Yi Haochen smoked with a cigarette in his mouth. He looked on coldly and was very proud. "Jiang Tian, you're just a country bumpkin from Jinling. So what if you're rich? How many times have you been abroad?" "I'm a gold card user of the Hilton Hotel, and I can fly all over the world. 1 word from me and you'll be kicked out of the Hilton Hotel." "I already know about it. What do you want, Mr. Yi?" Paris put down the antique phone inlaid with jade and ivory. Her beautiful eyes flashed as she asked gently, "Kick him out and put him on the Hilton Hotel's blacklist. Also, your hotel has to be my witness." Yi Haochen thought to himself, "She should know my identity by now." He couldn't help but be arrogant, brimming with the aura of a prince of Zhonghai. "Mr. Yi, according to the witnesses, you harassed Ms. Zhao first. Also, you kicked down Mr. Zhang's door and invaded his private property." Paris's well-defined face was suddenly covered with a layer of frost. She slammed the table and smiled coldly. "You're already suspected of breaking the law. Now, I ask you and your delegation to get out of the Hilton Hotel." "What did you say?" "I'm a gold card user of your hotel. Also, we're here on behalf of the Zhonghai government. How can you treat your distinguished guests like us?" Yi Haochen couldn't believe Paris's sudden change in attitude. He was confused and angry. "Honorable my ass," Paris cursed. "Bodyguards, kick us all out." Paris didn't waste any time. She slammed the table and shouted, "Sir, please leave." 2 black bodyguards, who were as tall as black towers, rushed in and took Yi Haochen outside. Yi Haochen was humiliated. He could do whatever he wanted in Zhonghai, and even had some influence in Singapore. However, this was how the other party treated him. He was like a chick in the claws of an eagle. He struggled in vain. He pointed at Paris and said angrily, "Paris, you better not come to Zhonghai again. Otherwise, I won't let you get away with it." "Sir, watch your words. You are now suspected of threatening someone." One of the black bodyguards scolded. "Damn it, I was threatening her." Yi Haochen was so angry that he felt dizzy. He was about to yell. As Paris's bodyguard, the black man was also a tough character. He couldn't deal with the spellcaster invited by the Guo family, but he could deal with a spoiled young master from Zhonghai. Bang! The punch landed on Yi Haochen's nose. His nose was almost crooked. Blood spurted out of his nose, and he fell to the ground. "You are not allowed to hit young Master Yi. You are breaking the law." Su Jie ran over and saw the shocking scene. She was so scared that her face turned pale, and she scolded in a stern voice, I said don't threaten Miss Paris. The black bodyguard didn't even look at Su Jia. He raised his leg and kicked Yi Haochen's brow. Immediately, Yi Haochen's head hit the wall again and blood spurted out. He felt dizzy, and the world was spinning. He felt as if 10,000 bees had entered his ears and were buzzing. Get out! The black bodyguard kicked Yi Haochen's head again. Yi Haochen screamed in pain. It was as if countless fireworks were blooming in front of his eyes. Su Jia was so scared that she took a step back. Her face turned pale, and she almost peed. She was good at negotiating and scheming in the workplace, but she had never seen such a terrifying scene. Get out now. Bang. The black man kicked Yi Haochen in the stomach again. He was in so much pain that his waist bent like a shrimp. He opened his mouth and spat out all the delicious food he had eaten in Singapore. What a pity. Young Master Yi, don't be afraid. I'll call the bodyguard. What's the police number in Xingzhou? Su Jia took out her phone. Her hand trembled, and the phone fell to the ground. It happened to fall in front of the black man. She was so scared that she didn't dare to pick it up. Su Jia, help me out of here. Help me out of here. Yi Haochuan struggled to stand up. He leaned against the wall and moved out. He couldn't see clearly. At this moment he was really scared. He was really worried that if he stayed here for a few more minutes, he would be beaten to death by the black man. Su Jia picked up the phone and helped Yi Haochen out of the hotel. Bang! Bang! With two loud noises, their luggage was thrown out of the door. Chapter 328. By then, the news of Wang Quan's broken limbs and Su Yohang's injuries had already reached the head of the delegation from Singapore, the mayor of Zhonghai, Yi Weihao. Meanwhile, Yi Weihao's room was ablaze with lights. He was in the middle of a discussion with a few tycoons. Bullshit! Bullshit! Yi Weihao slammed the table and glared at Manager Hu. You are the head steward of the delegation. How could you let them drink in a bar? Why did you let them fight? Are you a useless person? Director Hu tilted his head, and his head was about to be stuffed into his crotch. He felt wronged as well. Yi Haochen liked to flirt with girls. You know that. He is your son, the crown prince of Zhonghai. How can I control him? Yi Weihao's hands trembled as he thought about it. This is the first time a delegation has been beaten up since the founding of the People's Republic of China. You guys are creating a new world. How glorious. Next to them, an entrepreneur representative in the electronics industry couldn't stand it anymore and frowned. He frowned and said, Mayor Yi, this is not Manager Hu's fault. That Jiang guy was too ruthless. He broke Wang Quan's limbs without warning. We didn't even have time to react. Su Yuhang might be good at fighting, but he was no match for his opponent. Besides, he is the Master Kong of Jin City. Who would dare to stop him? Wait a minute, what Master Kong? It was so noisy outside that even Yi Cheetah, who had already fallen asleep, was alarmed. He walked out of the room next door and asked, Old man, he is the Master Kong who defeated the Nye family and the other two families in Jin City. The boss of the electronics industry said in a deep voice. Rumor has it that this person is a tycoon of Jinling. Not only were the Nye, Chun, and Sun families beaten to a pulp in the financial war, but they were also wiped out. Oh, the Master Kong of Jin City. No wonder. As soon as these words came out, some of the high-ranking officials and rich people present were shocked and couldn't believe it. Oh, the Jiang family of the Yawang group. After all, Yi Cheetah was in the economic field. He immediately reacted and waved his hand. I know about the financial war. Even Fang Zhambua was defeated by the Medicine King group. But I heard that the one behind it was Chun Jinming from Wall Street. It doesn't necessarily mean that the Jiang family is capable. In addition, what annihilation? That's even more nonsense. It's a false rumor. Is there no law in this world of peace? Father, what should we do? Yi Weihao asked with a frown as he had no experience in dealing with such a thorny issue. Singapore is a lawful society. How can he run away? Just call the police and arrest him. Yi Cheetah was very calm and said indifferently. He had been through many ups and downs throughout his life. In the end, he was given the title of Imperial Preceptor, an extremely important position. What kind of situation had he not seen? He had once stayed in a cowshed, been criticized, and had also attended a meeting with Deng Gong. He had even been warmly received by the chief, so he had seen all kinds of powerful people. He was just a hedonistic young master from Jinling. Why would he care about him? Yichida's words hit the nail on the head. Everyone nodded in agreement. Old Man Yi was the best. No matter how arrogant Jiang Tian was, it was only a small plot of land in Jinling City. Even in Zhonghai, it was useless, let alone in other countries. But now, the Zhonghai political and business delegation was a distinguished guest of Singapore. How could the Singapore police not treat this matter with caution and seriousness? We have a lot of friends here in Singapore, Yichida said lightly. Take the owner of this hotel, Mr. Hilton, as an example. He invited me to cut the ribbon when he opened a branch in Zhonghai. Yes. No matter how powerful that Master Kong is, he is nothing compared to the Old Man Yi. That's right. This time, with Elder Yi in charge, he's dead for sure. Everyone immediately flattered, and their panicked minds also calmed down. Mr. Yi, everyone, you have been blacklisted by our hotel. Please leave. Yichida didn't think much of it. Just as he was about to go to bed, an executive of the hotel walked up to him and said expressionlessly, "What? You want to kick us out? Are you kidding me? We are the visitors from Zhonghai. How dare you kick us out? This is the mayor of Zhonghai. This is the Old Man Yi." Many tycoons and government officials couldn't believe what they were hearing. Then their faces turned green with anger. Director Hu, in particular, jumped 3 feet high and said angrily, "How can you treat a guest like this? Do you know who we are? I am going to file a formal complaint against you to the embassy and file an international lawsuit to defend our rights." The hotel executive wore a smile on his face, but there were needles hidden in his words. "I know the identity of everyone present here. The reason why everyone here is blacklisted is because your delegation gathered in our hotel and injured people. You're even suspected of murder. Of course, we welcome you to use the law to defend your rights." Everyone was speechless. This was serious. However, it was Chinese New Year's Eve. There were many tourists in Wuxia. All the hotels were fully booked. Where were they going to book a hotel at this hour? Were they going to sleep on the streets? Yichida's face darkened. He felt a little embarrassed. He was just bragging about his friendship with the Hilton Hotel a moment ago. Then he was kicked out. As for whether or not the visitors were intentional, that is not up to you to decide. He chuckled and said, "Call your general manager here. Or ask Mr. Hilton to talk to me. Tell him that I am Yichida, an old friend of his from Wuxia University." "I am sorry, Mr. Yi." This order was also given by Ms. Paris Hilton. "Please cooperate with us. Don't make things difficult for me," the executive said with a sour face. "You." Yichida was so angry that he almost fainted. He had been to the White House, but now he was being kicked out of the Hilton Hotel. It was humiliating. "Ms. Paris only gave me 3 minutes. She doesn't want to see you in the hotel room." The executive raised his wrist and looked at his Vacheron Constantin watch. He smiled bitterly and said, "Then I have no choice but to enforce the order." With a gentle wave of his hand, a dozen bodyguards swarmed in and dragged them outside. "Don't touch me. We can walk on our own." Yichida was so angry that his face was ashen. His whole body was trembling. He put his hands behind his back and walked out of the door. "Why can't we stay here? We already paid in advance. We are beating up Jiang Tian. He is from Wuxia. What does it have to do with you? Mind your own business." A few rich and powerful officials were still reluctant and wanted to argue. Yi Weihao suppressed his anger and gritted his teeth. Go. Is this the only hotel in Singapore?" He reprimanded through gritted teeth. "If this place doesn't want us, there will be other places for us." He supported Yichida and walked out of the door. The rich and powerful officials could only carry their luggage and follow with dejected faces. "Go. Remember, you are on our blacklist. Our hotel does not welcome you." Many of the hotel staff waved their hands to chase them away as if they were annoying flies. "My medicine bottle." Yichida was so angry that he felt dizzy. He clutched his chest in pain and almost had a heart attack. He was an extremely powerful official and was known as the Imperial Preceptor. He had great influence in Wuxia's economic field. His words and actions could affect national policies and the fate of industries. In the past, no matter where he went, the feudal officials and Forbes tycoons treated him with respect as if he was their teacher. But today, in the small Singapore, he was chased away like a stray dog. It was really too infuriating. "Grandpa, Dad, what's wrong with you?" Yi Haochen walked over and asked in surprise when he saw a group of people walking out of the hotel. "You did it, and now you're being chased out," Yi Weihao said angrily. "It's not my fault. They started it. I just wanted to have a drink with my old classmate," Yi Haochen explained bitterly. "Xiaohu, hurry up and book a hotel. Look at the time. We still have a meeting tomorrow," Yi Weihao urged impatiently. He couldn't be bothered with these details. "I'm calling now." "Don't worry, Mayor Yi." Secretary, who was sweating profusely. He smiled pitifully. A group of people gathered at the fountain square in front of the hotel. They looked like stray dogs. Against the backdrop of the gorgeous fireworks, they looked even more desolate. The hotel's security guard came over and warned them seriously. "Gentlemen, please walk outside. This is still our hotel's private property." His gaze was as if he was looking at a third-world refugee. Yi Cheetah was so angry that he almost fainted. Secretary, who made a round of phone calls, but couldn't find a single room. After all, tourism in Singapore was very popular around the Chinese New Year. Previously, they had rejected the Singapore government's offer of an official hotel. It was not appropriate to contact the Singapore government at this time. It was already past midnight. That scene was truly one where one could neither go up nor down. It was truly an awkward situation. They didn't want to stay in hotels that were too shabby. In the end, a boss had a villa in Singapore with dozens of rooms. Everyone decided to stay there. Haha, looks like we still have to work hard. The road to recovery is long and arduous. The hotel didn't provide a shuttle car. Yi Cheetah sat in the smelly taxi and lamented. "This reminds me of the mocking eyes of the Russians when I was studying at Moscow State University." Yi Haochen didn't sleep the whole night. He kept asking for information about Jiang Tian through the intelligence network. At 10 o'clock in the morning, Su Jie reported that Wang Quan's family had arrived. After all, Yi Haochen was the cause of this incident. He quickly borrowed a car from the tycoon and drove to St. Mary Hospital. Intensive care unit. Wang Quan's father, the #1 lawyer in Zhonghai, Wang Tianhe, stood in the corridor and looked at Wang Quan in the ward. On the bench next to him, Wang Quan's mother and girlfriend were sobbing uncontrollably. Wang Quan's grandfather, Wang Pingjiang's face was ashen. He sighed. They spent a lot of money to charter a plane to fly here. After all, Wang Quan was seriously injured. During the operation, he almost died on the operating table. Tianhe, the doctor, said, "Wang Quan's life can be saved, but he can only spend the rest of his life in a hospital bed. That brat surnamed Jiang was too ruthless. That's simply inhumane and lawless." Wang Quan's mother cried bitterly as she spoke. Wang Tianhe didn't say anything for a long time. His face was so gloomy that it felt like a storm was coming. Chapter 329. Yi Haochen said with a pained face, "Uncle Wang, this is all because of me. The Yi family will not stand by and do nothing." Wang Tianhe was indeed the #1 lawyer in Zhonghai. Even when his son was beaten up, he did not lose his composure. He patted Yi Haochen's shoulder and said, "Little Yi, it's not your fault. That Jiang guy is too arrogant. He actually beat my only son so badly. It seems that he wants to fight to the death with our Wang family." Yi Haochen nodded and said, "My dad has already sent a message to Secretary Fan of Su Province. I think Secretary Fan will not let the Jiang family off so easily. Oh, even Brother Weihao has been alerted. That's good," Wang Tianhe said with a hint of joy. Yi Weihao was a high-ranking official. His words carried a lot of weight. Even Secretary Fan of Su Province had to give him face. "This time, I will make sure he dies without a burial place," Wang Tianhe said with a face full of hatred. At the side, Wang Quan's grandfather, Wang Pingjiang, waved his hand and said, "Weihao used his connections on his side, but we can't just let it go. Let Yi Baosher do it." "Right, Yi Baosher." When Yi Baosher was mentioned, Wang Tianhe's face lit up. When I was studying at Harvard's Kennedy School of Political Science, he was a visiting scholar there. We have always been good friends. He is now the #1 lawyer in Singapore. Even the Singapore Police Department has hired him as their legal consultant. Yes, Xiao Yi came to Wuxia to handle some international cases involving Singapore. I have also helped him. Wang Pingjiang nodded. Like a confident Mr. Zhuge, he said coldly, I heard that Mr. Jiang is very popular in Jinling, but this is Singapore. No matter how powerful he is, he won't be able to show off his skills here. This time he has met the king of hell. Yi Haochen's face darkened as he walked out of the ICU. Secretary Fan and his father, Yi Weihao, were not in the same faction, but in order to kill Jiang Tian, his father had actually asked for Secretary Fan's help. After all, the favor of a feudal official was not something that could be easily used. However, he had heard that even Secretary Yu of the Su Province's Political and Legal Affairs Committee was very close to the Jiang family. Now, in the entire Su Province, only Secretary Fan could suppress the Jiang family. No matter how high the price was, he could only beg him. Right, where's Su Yuhang? Is he all right? Yi Haochen turned to look at Su Jia. Su Yuhang was examined. He's fine, but his father seemed to have scolded him. He said something about being the martial arts consultant of the Battle Dragon clan, and the #1 grandmaster on the divine list. Su Yuhang was also taken away by him. I don't know if he'll go back to the mainland, Su Jia hurriedly reported. What do you mean? Why didn't you find out, stop him, and report to me? Yi Haochen glared at Su Jia. Su Jia was so scared that she broke out in cold sweat. She forced a wry smile and said, He left in a hurry. I didn't have time to ask or report to you before he left with his family. Oh, then forget about it. Yi Haochen shook his head gently. Even without Su Yohang's presence, the officials of Singapore were enough to deal with Jiang Tian. He seemed to have said that he was going to play on the Princess Jenny tonight, but he didn't know that it was also his turf. There were also important officials of the Singapore government, and many tycoons of Zhonghai attending the party. Even the tycoon of Jiangxi province, Yi Wudao, was coming. When the time came, that place would be his turf. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, there was no way he could turn the tables. Jiang Tian and Qing'er spent the night in bed, and woke up at noon the next day. Accompanied by the Hilton sisters, they went to a few famous attractions in Singapore, and bought some fun things for Jiang Wan. On the morning of the third day, Jiang Tian taught Qing'er the sonic attack of the 9 phoenix cries while playing the white ape-bone zither. In fact, the sonic attack was not a top-tier skill. However, Jiang Tian knew that Qing'er loved to play the zither, so he taught her a thing or two. However, Qing'er's ability to learn the sonic attack was terrifying. After she played the zither, her sonic attack was extraordinarily powerful. Mr. Jiang. While the two were playing the zither, a knock came from the door. You are? Jiang Tian opened the door, and saw an unfamiliar middle-aged man in his 30s standing outside the door. He couldn't help but frown. Oh, I am He Junyi from the He family of Singapore. Please forgive me for my sudden visit. The middle-aged man was dressed in luxurious clothes and had a powerful aura around him. He family? Who is Mr. He Zhongxiao to you? Jiang Tian seemed to have realized something and asked softly. So Mr. Jiang has heard of my father. That's great. He Junyi was elegant and graceful. He was delighted when he heard Jiang Tian's words. I have heard of Mr. Jiang's Medicine King group. My He family has always wanted to cooperate with Mr. Jiang to act as the agent for these few products. A trace of excitement could be seen on his face as he said, Mr. Jiang, you should know that our He family is one of the top 4 families in Singapore. The He family's Baoshan Hall is famous in Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and even the entire Southeast Asia. If our He Baoshan Hall acts as the agent for your company's products, you will definitely be able to sell them all over Southeast Asia. Oh, I see. Jiang Tian smiled. He Junyi's eyes were burning with greed. He smiled eerily and said, Besides, Mr. Jiang, the prices of your medicines are too low. I think we should use hunger marketing to sell them in limited quantities and find celebrities to endorse them. We can make them into luxury brands like Louis Vuitton. By then, We can expect to make tens of billions of profits a year. By then, we will split the profits 30% and 70%. What do you think? Just contact the Medicine King Group. I don't care about this. Jiang Tian nodded disinterestedly and was about to close the door. He Zhongxiao had attended the Grand Preceptor's coronation ceremony a few days ago. He kowtowed to Jiang Tian as if he was an idol. However, He Zhongxiao only brought 3 of his sons with him. He didn't bring He Junyi with him. It seemed that He Junyi was not even qualified to meet the Grand Preceptor. If the Medicine King Group wanted to cooperate with the He family, they only needed Yi Ziwei to show up, and He Zhongxiao would have to greet them personally. How could it be He Junyi's turn to talk to Jiang Tian? How could he have such qualifications? Seeing that Jiang Tian wouldn't even let him in, He Junyi's smile turned bitter. His eyes turned cold as he said in a strange tone, "Mr. Jiang, do you know that you are in big trouble now? I have to save you." "Oh, what trouble?" Jiang Tian looked at him curiously. "You have offended Yi Haochen of Zhonghai. He has gathered all kinds of forces to bring you to justice." He Junyi lit up a cigarette with a Dopung lighter and smiled maliciously. "Yi Haochen and I have a good relationship. If you agree to cooperate, I'll help you mediate and guarantee that you'll leave Singapore safely. What if I don't cooperate?" Jiang Tian asked calmly. "Then I can't help you." He Junyi shrugged. He decided to scare Jiang Tian. "I will even stand on Yi Haochen's side." Jiang Tian sneered as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He said coldly, "He Junyi, who do you think you are? How dare you talk about cooperation? You want to split the profits with me? Even your father doesn't dare to talk to me like that." "What did you say?" He Junyi was stunned. He couldn't believe it. He had heard that Jiang Tian was arrogant, but he didn't expect him to be this arrogant. As the saying goes, a strong dragon can't defeat a local snake. Moreover, the Jiang family's assets were comparable to the He family's. "You dare to threaten me? Do you know that I can remove the He family's name from Singapore with one word? Get lost." Jiang Tian's face was full of contempt. He slammed the door. The lower edge of the door was stuck on He Junyi's ankle. He grimaced in pain. "I gave you face, but you don't want it. You're courting death." He Junyi stood there in disbelief. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. Although He Junyi was the son of the 4th madam, he was still He Zhongxiao's flesh and blood. He was the director and vice president of many listed companies. But Jiang Tian, a country bumpkin from the mainland, didn't give him face. "Since you don't give me face, then don't blame me for turning hostile. I will let you know the consequences of offending me, He Junyi." He Junyi clenched his fists so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His nails dug into his palms as he smiled maliciously. "Idiot, which agent doesn't take 10% of the profits?" Even so, in order to compete for the agency rights, they still fight with each other. After returning to his room, Jiang Tian angrily ridiculed. This He Junyi was really too greedy. Moreover, he was too arrogant to dare to threaten him. If it weren't for the fact that He Zhongxiao was a kind person, he would have slapped him to death. "Hubby, what's wrong? Why are you so angry?" Qingyer's jade-like fingers played the zither, and a string of tinkling music was heard. The melodious music was like the bright moon shining in the pine forest. It was also like clear spring water flowing on clean stones. Jiang Tian's heart was suddenly clear, and all his worries disappeared. "Nothing, continue to play the zither. It's so nice." Jiang Tian sat down next to Qingyer and said with a smile. When night fell, Jiang Tian and his wife had dinner. They walked out of the Hilton Hotel and went to the beach with Jiang Weiner. "Qingyer, this is a gift for you. Do you like it? It's going to be the Shueqing Queen soon." Jiang Tian said with a smile as he pointed at the Princess Jenny cruise ship that was docked at Binhai Bay. It's so beautiful. Hubby, you're the best." Qingye held Jiang Tian's hand and smiled. "Wow, what a big ship." Jiang Weiner's eyes were wide open. She was very excited. "Let's board the ship," Jiang Tian said with a smile. At this time, Paris Hilton smiled and said, "Mr. Jiang, there's one more thing I want to report to you." "Speak," Jiang Tian said calmly. "The Zhonghai government and company representatives are also on this cruise ship today. They are negotiating with the Singapore government about the establishment of the free trade zone. Paris Hilton smiled and said, "The Singapore government booked this cruise ship 3 months ago. I really couldn't reject it at the last minute. They also want to hold a celebratory dinner tonight. However, if Master Kong doesn't want to see them, I can chase them off even if they have to pay some compensation for breaching the contract." "Oh, I didn't know about this before," Jiang Tian smiled and said, "but it's okay. I want to meet them anyway." Soon a speedboat came. Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing held Jiang Weiner's hand and boarded the yacht, and then the cruise ship. Little did they know that Yi Haochen and the others had been waiting for them for a long time. A big battle was about to break out. Chapter 330. After 2 days of arduous negotiations, the establishment of a free trade zone between Zhonghai and Singapore had been finalized. Many of the officials and elites of the business world felt as if they had run a marathon. They felt both tired and relaxed. Meanwhile, in the banquet hall of the cruise ship, many officials and tycoons were drinking and chatting merrily. If the free trade zone is built successfully, Mayor Yi will be one of the top contributors. He will be noticed by the central government and be promoted to the position of the #1 official of Zhonghai. Yeah, after the establishment of Zhonghai Free Trade Zone, more countries and regions will join us. It will push the economy of Zhonghai to a new height. Many tycoons and government officials surrounded Yi Haochen like stars around the moon. Their faces were plastered with flattering smiles. This is a pioneering work. Now Mayor Yi is not even 50 years old. He can be said to be young and vigorous. With such outstanding achievements and the support of the old Lord Yi, he will become the secretary of the central government in 5 years. That will be a different story. Everyone displayed their own unique skills, and fancy flattery flew into the sky. Colorful flattery surged like a tide. As the crown prince of Zhonghai, Yi Haochen was already a very powerful man. Even the richest people on the Forbes list treated him with respect. At this moment, the way they looked at Yi Haochen was different. If Yi Weihao could become the secretary of the central government, he would be able to join the central government. That meant that he would be able to climb to the top of the pyramid of power in Wuxia. Everyone felt as if they were witnessing the rise of a new political family. Yi Haochen, on the other hand, was like a golden egg that could transform into a divine dragon of the 9th heaven. This matter isn't set in stone yet. Yi Haochen suppressed his smugness and said with a smile, "I had a meeting with Prime Minister Li Xianlong this morning. He said that we need the approval of the new Grand Preceptor of Singapore." Grand Preceptor? What the hell is that? Why does it sound like a feudal society? Yeah, isn't Singapore a modern country with a legal system? Why does the Grand Preceptor have the final say? Yeah, this is too unbelievable. Many tycoons were perplexed. He is probably a feng shui master, Yi Haochen said lightly. I have worked in Singapore for many years, and I know that Singapore's obsession with feng shui has reached an unimaginable level. Do you know about the Suntec City complex? We know. Everyone agreed and listened attentively. Yi Haochen held a glass full of champagne, elegantly speaking. When the place first opened for business, the businesses there were dismal. Later, under the guidance of the state preceptor, Master Red Boat, a circular fountain was built that sprayed inward. It is known as the Fountain of Wealth. In Cantonese, there's a meaning of water is money. Spurting inward means keeping the goodies within the family. Since then, the sales of the Suntec City building complex have been smooth sailing, and the merchants have made a fortune. It has now become the most prosperous commercial complex in Singapore. I see. Young Master Yi is indeed knowledgeable, as expected of someone who studied at Singapore National University. Everyone felt incredulous, but they still nodded. A tycoon smiled and added, "There's one more thing. In early 1997, a new subway opened in Singapore. Due to the Asian financial crisis, the economy took a nosedive. At that time, Prime Minister Li Guangyao was so anxious that he asked the state preceptor for help. The state preceptor placed the feng shui diagram in front of Li Guangyao and said that feng shui dragon veins are like this. Now that you have opened a subway, you have forcefully broken the dragon veins. My solution is that every Singaporean citizen must wear a small 8 trigrams. Li Guangyao agreed and immediately carried out the instructions. That's how the current Singapore 1 yuan coin came into existence. He smiled and took out a coin. It really is an imitation of the 8 trigrams. Yes, the whole thing is round, but the hollow edges are in the shape of the 8 trigrams. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder. Yi Haochen smiled and commented, I don't know if it was the Asian financial crisis that caused the state preceptor's miracle, or if it was the state preceptor's miracle that dispelled the financial crisis. Either way, Singapore's economy recovered and started to prosper. His face was solemn as he said, in short, the state preceptor is a highly respected figure in Singapore. He is also known as the King of Singapore. In the 1980s, it was the Venerable Master Red Boat. In the 1990s, it was Wang Chongyan from the Chinese Society of Singapore. Now it's the legendary state preceptor Jiang. As everyone chatted, they were all inquiring about this godlike imperial preceptor Jiang. Someone asked, I wonder if the arrogant and despotic Grandmaster Jiang from 2 nights ago dares to come today? Yi Haochen's eyes flashed with disdain. He took a sip of red wine and didn't reply. Yeah, didn't he say that he was coming today? A tycoon holding a folding fan, Boss Fu sneered. Don't scare him to death. Many political figures are coming today. There are police and even military guards. He should surrender now that he is here. Boss Zhang, who was wearing a jade bracelet at the side, sneered. I bet he would have run back to Wuxia already. A socialite from Zhonghai sneered. Do you think he can run back to Wuxia? If he offended young Master Yi, the leaders of Su province would not let him off the hook. Boss Fu, who was holding a folding fan, said disdainfully. Everyone nodded. Yi Weihao had made it into a free trade zone. How brilliant of a political achievement was that? Zhonghai was the second largest city in Wuxia. It was almost certain that he would become the secretary of Zhonghai. Let's drink. He is just a spoiled brat. Take your time. I am going to the banquet hall to keep my father company. Yi Haochen toasted everyone, and then walked into the banquet hall in high spirits. Mr. Jiang Tian and Ms. Zhao Xueqing of Jin City have arrived. Clang, clang, clang. When Jiang Tian appeared on the deck of the cruise ship, a commotion broke out. Many people looked at the boarding gate in disbelief. Everyone's faces were filled with shock, disbelief, ridicule, curiosity, and schadenfreude. There were all kinds of expressions. They had never heard of Jiang Tian's name before. However, after the incident at the Hilton Hotel, everyone in Zhonghai knew about the Master Kong of Jin City. So he is the Master Kong of Jin City? He is so young. I heard that he dominated Lingnan and defeated the 3 most powerful families in Jin City. That's impossible. Not only that, I also heard that the Tang family of Linzhou is very close to him. Everyone's attention was on Jiang Tian and Zhao Xueqing. Jiang Tian had left many legends in Jin City. He used to be a spoiled brat who was mentally unstable, but he rose to power and became the leader of the underworld in Jiangbei. He defeated the Wei family and the Mo family in Lingnan and shocked many powerful families. Then he returned to Jin City and defeated the 3 most powerful families in Jin City. All along the way, he was simply advancing triumphantly with irresistible force. His speed was like a rocket, and he was practically invincible. There were many rumors about him. Some said that he was the illegitimate son of a boss in the central government, or that he was adopted by a mysterious sorcerer. Although many people didn't believe it, these rumors were very convincing, and many people believed it. Humph. He is just average. I don't care if you believe it or not, but I don't believe it. Boss Fu looked at Jiang Tian, slapped the folding fan in his hand, and shook his head. Boss Fu, if it weren't for him, the Nie family wouldn't have fallen. Nie Zhonghai was burned to death. Nie Zhonghai had dominated Jin City for many years. Even Secretary Fan and Secretary Yu couldn't defeat him. Boss Zhang twirled the jade bracelet in his hand and said with a smile. Boss Zhang, you said it yourself. Even Secretary Fan and Secretary Yu couldn't defeat Nie Zhonghai. How could he? Boss Fu raised his eyebrows. Well, Boss Zhang was speechless. Yes, Secretary Fan and Secretary Yu were both high-ranking officials. However, Nie Zhonghai and the other two families had dominated Jin City for decades. Even these high-ranking officials couldn't do anything about it, let alone this young man in front of him who looked like he was in his early 20s. I want to say that it was just a coincidence. Nie Zhonghai was too arrogant. The higher-ups had their eyes on him for a long time. Since the Jiang family and the Nie family had a grudge against each other, the officials pushed the Jiang family out. Boss Fu waved the folding fan in his hand, as if he was Zhuge Kongming. Wonder, what do you want to eat? Teppanyaki squid. Eat whatever you want today, you greedy little cat. Jiang Tian pulled a chair over and sat down. He held Jiang Wonder in his arms and fed her the grilled squid on the grill. Cousin, it's delicious. Jiang Wonder beamed with joy. Her mouth was greasy. At this time, director who heard the news and came over. He put on a professional posture and frowned. Mr. Jiang, right? I'm sorry, but this is the celebration party of the Zhonghai delegation. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to enter. Please leave. Who are you? Jiang Tian looked at him curiously. Me? I am the director of the office of Zhonghai City. I am also the personal secretary of Mayor Yi Weihao. I am also the chief steward of the delegation. Director who had an arrogant look on his face. He cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian, as if he was looking at a beggar. Because Jiang Tian had beaten up the members of the visiting group, Yi Weihao was enraged and scolded him. Now that he had seen the culprit, how could he still hold it in? What a big shot. You scared the hell out of me. Jiang Tian picked up the grilled tuna again, stuffed it into Jiang Wan'er's mouth, and sneered without raising his head. Actually, you're nothing more than a horse guard who leads a horse for someone else. A clown who carries a sedan chair and plays the trumpet. You are just a small fry. How dare you act so arrogantly in front of me? Dog slave, you're simply courting death. Jiang Tian, who do you think you are? Your father Jiang Zhixing was just a divisional official a year ago. These words were too harsh. Even though director who had experienced decades of ups and downs in the officialdom, he was about to explode with anger at this moment. He was so angry that his lips were trembling. His body was shaking uncontrollably. Then he ground his teeth and said with disdain and mockery, "When I went to Jinling on a business trip, your father served me wine, lit cigarettes, and gave me gifts. It was as if he was meeting his own grandfather. He wanted to return the humiliation brought by Jiang Tian 100-fold. He even helped me open the car door. I don't know who is the slave and who is the clown. What? Now he has just been promoted to the office level, and he is only at the peace level. How dare you? Haha, you are courting death." Hearing this, Jiang Tian's face suddenly became gloomy. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 331. Jiang Tian was truly enraged. It was fine for others to humiliate him, but Jiang Tian would never allow anyone to humiliate his father. Scram! Jiang Tian did not waste his breath at all, and directly delivered a big slap over. Ah! Amidst the blood-curdling screams, director whose mouth was full of blood, he flew out like a dead dog, twitching all over and unable to get up for a long time. Everyone's body quivered, and they were shocked silly. Too arrogant, too arrogant. He actually dared to slap director whose face in public. This was too arrogant and domineering. How dare you hit me? Director who got up and covered his swollen face. He was horrified and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. If it wasn't for the fact that we're both descendants of Yan Huang and met in another country, you'd already be dead. Jiang Tian took the wet towel handed over by Qing'er, as if hitting him would dirty his own hand. He carefully and slowly wiped the non-existent stain on his hand, and said with an indifferent expression, "What should we do? Don't call the guards. They've all been injured by him and haven't been discharged yet. Call the police? The police won't be here anytime soon. It's best to call the guards on the cruise ship." Just as everyone was at their wits' end, a voice announced, "Miss Paris has arrived." Director who wiped the blood off his lips and walked over angrily. "Miss Paris, this Jiang guy started the fight today. Also, this cruise ship is rented by the Singapore government. What right does he have to come up here and beat people up? Where are your security guards?" he asked. "Arrest him immediately." Everyone knew that the visiting group was on the Hilton Hotel's blacklist. However, this Princess Jenny was not a property of the Hilton Hotel. They still had the right to use it. Moreover, they were guests invited by the Singapore government. How could Paris dare to offend them? Get out. Arrogant, despotic, and vulgar. What a barbarian. How dare you beat people up in such a high-class place like the Princess Jenny? You have no manners. Seeing that Paris had arrived, the rich and powerful officials seemed to have found someone to rely on. They all shouted, "Mr. Hu, I'm sorry, but this cruise ship has become Madame Zhang's private property since 3 days ago." The moment Paris opened her mouth, she suppressed all the boiling voices. Private property? Everyone was dumbfounded. It was as if they had been viciously slapped a few times. They were completely dumbfounded. Like a high and mighty princess, Paris looked down at the crowd and smiled faintly. The Singapore government and you are just his tenants. If Mr. Jiang is willing to pay a few $100,000 in new dollars, he can kick you out right now. Jie. Instantly, everyone was dumbfounded. They were like ducks that had been choked by an invisible hand, and they were flabbergasted yet unable to utter a single word. What? This cruise ship is probably worth at least 1 billion Wuxia dollars. Jiang Tian actually bought it. Everyone present was a wealthy and high-ranking official. They knew the true value of this cruise ship and couldn't help but exclaim. After taking the contract from Iris, Jiang Tian passed it to Zhao Xueqing and smiled. "Qing'er, keep it well. This is the ownership certificate. Do you like it?" "Ha, it's fine if it's under your name. Why did you have to put it under my name?" Zhao Xueqing scolded Jiang Tian, but her face was filled with joy. "Birthday present? That's too extravagant." Boss Fu was dumbfounded. He gripped his folding fan so tightly that his knuckles turned white. They were all people with a net worth of billions, but normally, they would grit their teeth and make the decision to spend tens of millions on a cruise ship. But Jiang Tian gave away a cruise ship worth 1 billion just like that. This wasn't a model, it was the real deal. He really didn't care about money. What a country bumpkin. So what if he has some filthy money? Nouveau riche. In the banquet hall, Yi Haochen's face suddenly changed. Through the floor-to-ceiling glass window, his face turned green and white. In the end, he could only curse resentfully. At that moment, he felt really uncomfortable. He couldn't help but recall how he tried to bribe Zhao Xueqing with a villa worth less than 10 million, but Zhao Xueqing retorted. At that time, he thought that his villa with a sea view worth tens of millions was extravagant enough to move Zhao Xueqing. But what about Jiang Tian? He gave him a cruise ship that was worth 1 billion Wuxia dollars. Compared to Jiang Tian's wealth, he was probably like a beggar in Zhao Xueqing's eyes. His smug look made him look like a clown. What kind of luck did Zhao Xueqing have to marry such a good husband? Next to her, Su Jie was also envious and shocked. She muttered in a low voice, dumbfounded. Before this, she had always thought that Zhao Xueqing was born in a miserable family and married poorly. On the other hand, she married a rich second-generation heir and had a high-paying job. She was a little complacent and full of a sense of superiority. But now, a cruise ship that Jiang Tian casually gave to Zhao Xueqing was a fortune that she would never be able to earn in a lifetime. No, 10 or 100 lifetimes. It was unattainable. Okay, Jiang Tian, you're amazing. You're so generous. On the deck, Director Hu forced himself to calm down and said with a fake smile, "But I'm not the main person today. But I'm not the main character today. If you can walk out of here in one piece, I'll take this slap for nothing." At that moment, a middle-aged man with an extraordinary aura and an expressionless face walked out of the banquet hall. "Lawyer Wang, you're here." As soon as he came out, many tycoons and officials in the hall stood up and saluted him respectfully. Even Director Hu hurriedly stepped aside. "You're the Master Kong of Jinling?" Wang Tianhe looked down at Jiang Tian and asked. "That's me." Jiang Tian pulled out a tissue and carefully wiped the grease off Jiang Waner's mouth. He didn't even look at Wang Tianhe, as if the grease on Jiang Waner's mouth was 100 times more important than him. "Master Kong, I'm Wang Tianhe, the founder of Zhonghai United Law Firm. I'm also the father of Wang Quan, whose limbs were broken by you." Wang Tianhe couldn't help but be angry. he scolded with a pale face. I want to ask Master Kong. What kind of grudge do you have with my son? Why are you so cruel to him? Do you have any respect for the law? Do I need a reason to hit him? I've already hit him. What can you do to me? Bite me if you dare. Jiang Tian wiped Jiang Wen'er's mouth clean with a tissue. Then, with a flick of his hand, the dirty tissue hit Wang Tianhe's face. Grandmaster Jiang, aren't you being too arrogant? Do you know that even your mother, Madame Zhang Wanqing, wouldn't dare to be so disrespectful to me? Wang Tianhe was so angry that his whole body trembled and his teeth were almost broken. He could be said to be the #1 civil and commercial law litigator in China. Even those tycoons with billions of assets had to be courteous to him and treat him as a VIP. Coupled with his father's influence, even the officials and secretaries of the provinces and cities had to treat him with caution and avoid him. But at this moment, Jiang Tian didn't put him in his eyes at all. Hee Wang Tianhe, who do you think you are? You're not worthy of my Jiang family's respect. I've already been merciful to your son. Jiang Tian picked up the fruit plate and slowly peeled the grapes as he said with an indifferent expression. Do you think my son isn't miserable enough? Wang Tianhe was so angry that he almost fainted. He said angrily, if you don't show mercy, are you going to destroy my Wang family? That's right. In the face of Wang Tianhe's harsh questioning, Jiang Tian spat out 2 words with a calm face. As soon as the words came out, the whole place fell into dead silence. Everyone's jaw dropped. They couldn't believe their eyes. No matter how rich the Jiang family was, they were no match for the Wang family of Zhonghai when it came to political influence, especially in the legal field. Especially since this was Singapore, not Jin City. How dare you say that you want to destroy someone's family? This Grandmaster Jiang was a talent, but he was a little too arrogant and conceited. Mr. Jiang, you are too arrogant. You can do whatever you want in Wuxia, but this is Singapore. Singapore is a society governed by law. At this moment, along with a sarcastic voice, a refined noble young master with a calm temperament walked over lightly. Oh my God! Isn't that He Junyi from the He family of Singapore? Everyone exclaimed when they saw him. Yeah, the He family is one of the top 4 families in Singapore. He Junyi and Guo Changsheng are also known as the 4 arrogant young lords of Singapore. He seems to know Jiang Tian, and they seem to have a conflict. I don't think Kong Teichu will be able to leave Singapore. He is a local tyrant. How did he get on the bad side of the He family of Singapore? Everyone whispered to each other. By then, they had realized that Jiang Tian was a troublemaker. He had offended the Yi family, the Wang family, and the Su family of Zhonghai. Now He Junyi from the He family of Singapore had joined the fray. Mr. Jiang, I don't know if you regret your rejection of me yesterday. Along the way, He Junyi's aura was huge and unrestrained. When he got close, he looked at Jiang Tiandao with a hideous smile. Unfortunately, there is no cure for regret in this world. Even if you are arrested, the Jiang family will still beg for my help. By then, not only will I get the distribution rights of your products, but I will also share the patent with you. Do you regret it now? It's not too late to beg for my help. He Junyi, you piece of trash, you ant, you don't know your place. Not to mention you, even your father and grandfather would have to kneel and kowtow to me when they see me. Jiang Tian said with disdain. You. He Junyi was so angry that he wanted to kick Jiang Tian to death. However, this was a foreign event, so he suppressed his anger and said, keep your mouth shut. The Wang family of Zhonghai is going to give you a hard time. As expected, Wang Tianhe cracked a smile and said, you are wrong, Jiang Tian. Even if you are the tyrant of Jin City, it is just a small place. My Wang family is one of the most powerful families in Zhonghai. His eyes grew darker and darker as he sneered. Do you know that I can send you to jail for what you just said? I have come prepared this time. I have recorded your words, and I will submit them to the court of Singapore and send you to jail. He paused and then turned to the entrance of the banquet hall. He smiled and said, Mr. Yi, please come out. A middle-aged man wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses sauntered out of the banquet hall. Suddenly, the banquet hall was filled with awe and admiration. Yi Baosher. Why is he here? He is the top lawyer in Singapore. He is the legal consultant of the Singapore Police Department. His family is also the chief judge. Mr. Wang is really something. I can't believe he managed to get Yi Baosher to come here. Even the way they looked at Wang Tianhe had changed. Wang Tianhe cracked a smile and said, "When I was studying at the Harvard Kennedy School of Politics, I often went to Chinatown with Mr. Yi." He couldn't hide his pride. It was an honor to be friends with an internationally renowned lawyer like Yi Baosher. Chapter 332. Jiang Tian is done for this time. How dare you say such things without thinking? Yi Baosher is the one who filed the lawsuit. You should know that Singapore is a society ruled by law. How dare a country bumpkin from Wuxia do whatever he wants here? Boss Fu was like a storyteller, shaking his head as he commented. In the end, he slapped the folding fan on the table. Like a wake-up call, he attracted everyone's attention. Only then did he make the final decision. No matter how capable Jiang Tian is, he won't be able to escape the law. Boss Zhang and the others all nodded, thinking that it made sense. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, he could only do whatever he wanted in Jinlin City. He couldn't even do anything in Zhonghai, let alone in Singapore. "Sir, please come with me to the police station for an investigation." Yi Baosher walked behind Jiang Tian and said in a low voice, "Yi Baosher, is the wound on your face healed?" Jiang Tian turned around slowly and asked with a smile. Jiang Tian was sitting with his back, facing the exit of the hall. Yi Baosher didn't get a good look at Jiang Tian's face until he turned around. Suddenly, Yi Baosher felt like he had seen a ghost. He was scared out of his wits. "Jiang! Devil Jiang!" he screamed. He was so scared that his legs were cramping. Cold sweat broke out all over his body and soaked his shirt. Singapore was a tropical area. Even though it was winter, the temperature was still around 30 degrees Celsius. However, Yi Baosher felt as if he had been locked in a freezer. He would never forget how Jiang Tian had destroyed the Guo family, kicked over the explosion-proof police car, and destroyed the helicopter with a single slash. He would never forget the scene of Jiang Tian mercilessly stripping Guo Shihai of his life force and lifespan, killing Guo Junfeng and Guo Changxing with a flick of his finger, and slaughtering the Guo clan until rivers of blood flowed. Devil King. Yes. In Yi Baosher's mind, Jiang Tian was a demon who killed people like flies. A demon who could swallow the heavens and destroy the earth. What was even more frightening was that Jiang Tian was still fine even after destroying the Guo family. He was leisurely cruising around the bay on a cruise. According to Deputy Commissioner Li of the police station, the entire government of Singapore had completely submitted to this person. He was reminded to never provoke Jiang Tian again. One man suppressing an entire country. In front of such a godly person, the laws and the rules of modern society were nothing. They were not worth mentioning at all. Huh? Lawyer Yi, what did you call me? I didn't hear you clearly. Say it again. Jiang Tian looked at him with a smile. Yi Baosher hurriedly covered his mouth with his hands. His eyes were filled with terror. In an instant he felt his liver hurt, so much. In a moment of desperation, he actually shouted out his impression of Jiang Tian, but it was too unpleasant to hear. Could he even call out the words "Great Demon King"? At this moment, he was filled with hatred and wished he could slap himself a few times. Yi Baosher, where did your eloquence go when you were arguing with the crowd in the courtroom? You, Yi Baosher, had the ability to socialize with people in the circle of rich and powerful officials. What happened to you? My liver hurt so much. In a moment of desperation, he knelt on the ground with a thud and prostrated himself on the ground, wailing, Grandmaster Jiang, I really didn't know it was you. If I knew it was you, I wouldn't have dared to come even if you beat me to death. There was nothing he could do. At this moment, Yi Baosher really did not know how to express his apology to Jiang Tian, and his sincerity in surrendering. Fine, then kneel down. It's okay. Hurry up and leave. I don't want to see you. Jiang Tian waved his hand casually as if he was shooing away a fly. The current Kong Techu was the reigning Grand Preceptor of Singapore. He could be called the King of Singapore, and was on equal footing with the leaders of small countries like Singapore. Yi Baosher was just a mere litigator. Someone at this level was like an ant. He was too lazy to kill him. Thank you, Master Kong, for sparing my life. Yi Baosher felt as if he had been pardoned. He ran to a crew member in a panic. Is there a speedboat? Ha! It takes 10 minutes to get into the water. Is there a lifebuoy? Lend me one. Hurry up. Under the incredulous gaze of the crowd, Yi Baosher took a lifebuoy and put it on. Then he flipped over the side of the boat and jumped into the water, disappearing. A few minutes later he reappeared. He spat out a mouthful of water, and his legs and feet moved quickly. He used the dog paddle style and swam to the shore. He swam very fast and looked back at Jiang Tian with fear on his face from time to time. It was as if the person behind him was not a person, but a great white shark. It was obvious how terrified he was of Jiang Tian. Lawyer Wang, is this what you're relying on? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be working very well. Jiang Tian took a sip of juice and smiled at Wang Tianhe, whose expression had changed drastically. Mr. Fu, what do you think is going on? I can't believe Yi Baosher is so scared. Mr. Zhang squeezed the jade bracelet tightly. He felt that today's drama was too good to be true. First, it was Director who was slapped away by Jiang Tian. Then Miss Iris came over and gave the final word. Then the #1 lawyer in Zhonghai, Wang Tianhe, invited Yi Baosher to help him. Then He Junyi, the young master of Singapore, tried his best to persuade Yi Baosher. However, they were all defeated by Jiang Tian. Mr. Fu was a bit confused. Even though he was well informed, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. He could only frown and say, I've heard that Grandmaster Jiang is a master of sorcery, and Singapore is the most superstitious place. Yi Baosher has heard of some of his supernatural powers in Wuxia, so it's understandable that he's afraid. Doesn't that mean Grandmaster Jiang has completely turned the tables this time? Mr. Zhang smiled. I don't think so. Old Man Yi hasn't come out yet. Mr. Fu shook his head and said. Everyone on the deck was in a state of panic. They all paid close attention to what was going on. Suddenly, the MC announced at the entrance of the banquet hall. Mr. Yi Cheetah, Mayor Yi Weihao, and Mr. Yi Haochen are here to propose a toast. The entire place was shaken by this voice. Everyone on the deck, and at the entrance of the banquet hall rose to their feet and looked over. They saw a tall and handsome young man walk out of a luxurious cabin with the help of an old man in a black suit. Yi Weihao stood beside the old man. Old Man Yi. Old Man Yi is here. Many tycoons and officials at the banquet exclaimed in shock. Even Old Man Yi is here. Look at Wuxia. How many people can stand up to him? Master Kong is in danger. Boss Fu slapped his thigh and laughed mischievously, as if he had expected this to happen. Along the way, Yi Cheetah greeted everyone and occasionally chatted with people. Every casual sentence he said was a gem, showing his profound learning and international vision. He was worthy of being a renowned scholar. To be able to shake hands with him and chat with him, all the rich and powerful officials were flattered and felt honored. He was a leading figure in the economics field in Wuxia. He was a senior counselor of the government council. He was a scholar who could give lectures to national leaders. It could be said that his words and actions could influence the national policy of Wuxia. He could easily change the future of an industry. Many provincial officials had to greet him respectfully. Old Man Yi, or Professor Yi. Finally, Yi Cheetah walked out of the crowd and stopped in front of Jiang Tian. He looked down at Jiang Tian from above. Under the admiring gazes of many people, he said with burning eyes, Are you the rumored Master Jiang of Jinling? Yes, that is me. Even though Yi Cheetah was there, Jiang Tian was still calm and collected. He calmly fed Jiang Wan. It was as if the world was not as big as the little girl in his arms. You are indeed a talented young man. Yi Cheetah wasn't angry at Jiang Tian's disrespect. Instead, he sized up Jiang Tian and said, You are only in your 20s. You are younger than my master students, but you have already made a name for yourself in Jin City. Even though I live in Zhonghai, I have heard of Master Kang's name. Suddenly he changed the topic. His eyes suddenly turned cold, and a cold light burst out from his eyes. I have heard that you are a master of martial arts and that you can easily kill people and wipe out their families. Is that true? Yes, so what? Jiang Tian looked up for the first time, and his eyes met Yichida's. The moment he saw Jiang Tian's eyes, Yichida's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly felt chills all over his body. Looking at Wuxia, even the children of the rich and powerful in Yanjin could remain calm in front of him. Most of them seemed as if they were treading on thin ice, and they were trembling with fear and caution. It was even to the extent that their gazes were cowering like quails. However, Jiang Tian's gaze was indifferent, extremely indifferent. It was as if he was a god looking down on ants. In his eyes, it was as if human lives were as worthless as grass. He could kill 10,000 people by himself. There was also a kind of calm domineering aura, as if he could kill all the gods and Buddhas in the sky, tear the sky and break the earth. It was as if he were an emperor who could rule the world and decide the fate of the righteous path. The lines on his face were like the peak of an ancient glacier. Yichida's heart was beating wildly. He had only seen this kind of sharp and terrifying gaze from Taizu, Deng Gong, and a few other founding fathers of the country. Jiang Tian, you've gone too far. Old Lord Yi is a respected person. What's with your attitude? Wang Tianhe scolded. What's with your attitude? Old Lord Yi is old enough to be your grandfather. Don't you know the virtue of respecting the old and caring for the young? Yi Haochen also scolded. Humph, don't think you're so great just because you're dominating Jinling. Grandfather Yi can reach the heavens. He can directly talk to the big shots in the central government. He just needs to casually hand in a report, and your Jiang family will be finished. He Junyi said angrily. In a blink, the entire deck was filled with mocking voices. Jiang Tian seemed to be the target of public criticism. Even Mai Shilong and Han Yan were frightened and didn't dare to speak for Jiang Tian. When everyone was criticizing Jiang Tian, Yichida's mind also gradually calmed down. He waved his hands and waited for everyone to quiet down. Then he looked at Jiang Tian with his hands behind his back and said, Grandmaster Jiang, for you to have such achievements at such a young age, it can be said that you're absolutely stunning. But you have to understand that the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. You should keep a low profile and be kind to others. You shouldn't be making enemies everywhere and fighting like you are now. Yichida assumed the posture of an elder and looked down from above. He raised his voice by an octave and lectured in an imposing manner. Let me remind you, Wuxia isn't up to a kid like you. This isn't your territory in Jinlin City, and it's not a place where you can do whatever you want. As soon as he finished speaking, the entire deck was silent. Everyone could feel that there was a needle hidden in his words. It could be said that there was a spear in his words, and his killing intent was overflowing. His words were equivalent to a death sentence for Jiang Tian. It meant that he was going to report to the central government and make suggestions to suppress the Jiang family. Chapter 333. Everyone's expression changed drastically, each with different opinions. Sympathy, ridicule, shock, inquiry, and disbelief. Sujie and the others were even gloating at his misfortune. It seemed that Jiang Tian could no longer turn the tables. He could only admit defeat and even beg for mercy. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian just took a sip of juice and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? How dare you call yourself old man in front of me? I think it's more appropriate to call you old man." What? What did you say? How dare you insult old Master Yi? Do you know how much old Master Yi has contributed to the economic development of Wuxia? Arrogant. Ignorant. Old Master Yi has worked his heart out for the economic development of Wuxia. He is a meritorious official of the country. As soon as these words came out, it really angered everyone. Everyone cursed and wanted to grind Jiang Tian's bones to ashes to vent their anger. Even Yichida, who had amazing self-restraint, was so angry that his face was livid. The veins on Yi Weihao's forehead were throbbing. A great traitor looks loyal. He looks like a loyal official, but he is a national traitor. Jiang Tian sneered and stood up. Mr. Yi, may I ask if you are the one who proposed the management reform of Wuxia's state-owned enterprises? Everyone was suddenly stunned. Master Kang's thinking jumped too fast. He jumped from scolding to academic discussion in an instant. However, Wasn't discussing academic matters with Yi Cheetah like showing off in front of Guan Yu? It was the biggest joke in the world. It's me. Yi Cheetah said proudly. Enterprises owned by the whole people are facing the problem of the lack of managers. Professional managers will not work hard to achieve good results. Only when the enterprise is privately owned will there be such motivation. Nonsense. Jiang Tian said in a deep voice. In fact, Wuxia's state-owned enterprises are very similar to the listed companies in the United States. Because the listed companies in the United States are public companies, their shares are very scattered. However, in the listed companies in the United States, is there any professional manager who dares to not run the company well? If you don't do well, the shareholders will vote with their feet and ask you to step down. It was not like what old Mr. Yi said. It was natural for the factory directors and managers of state-owned enterprises not to run the company well. But if the company became the manager of the state-owned enterprise, then all the problems would be solved. This is putting the cart before the horse. Jiang Tian's gaze was as sharp as a knife as he looked directly at Yi Cheetah. He said indifferently, Mr. Yi and everyone, let me make a very simple analogy. A state-owned enterprise was a house owned by every citizen. A housekeeper, who was also the manager of the state-owned enterprise, was hired to clean the house. But this nanny didn't clean the house properly, so Mr. Yi Cheetah thought that this nanny bought the house and made it his. Once he became the owner of the house, the nanny would clean the house diligently. Isn't this nonsense? Everyone was stunned. This Grandmaster Jiang wasn't a boorish fellow, and he seemed to know a little. Mr. Jiang, I admit that you have a very intuitive judgment of economic theory, but it is only a very superficial judgment. Yi Cheetah was slightly taken aback. Then he said with a mocking expression, the nanny bought this house but paid for it. It's equivalent to a state-owned asset in another way, in the form of cash. Only by withdrawing from a completely competitive industry can economic vitality be stimulated. This is the consensus of everyone. Then there are two problems that need to be solved. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Who decided the price of this house? Where did the money for the nanny to buy the house come from? According to common sense, the price of the house should be decided by the owner of the house. At the very least, an appraisal company should be hired to give a fair and just evaluation. The money to buy the house must be from the nanny. If the money isn't enough, it should be borrowed from the outside for financing. But as far as I know, the management of many state-owned enterprises, the appraisal and pricing of the company's assets are decided by the management. The source of the funds are all from the state-owned enterprises' accounts. Or they use the state-owned enterprises under their control as collateral for financing. This is completely putting the left pocket into the right pocket. It's like trying to gain something without risking anything. Mr. Yi, right now the management of Wuxia's state-owned enterprises, MBOs, have caused the loss of state-owned assets. I think Mr. Yi should know better than me. If you don't know, let me tell you for words shocking. And why do you, Mr. Yi, still advocate such a deformed system? You should know better. For the country and the people? What a joke. Isn't it to fill your own pockets? When Jiang Tian said this, Yi Cheetah's face suddenly changed. He wanted to cover Jiang Tian's mouth. His hands trembled as he said, I admit that there are some problems in this, but the reform must be pushed forward. We can't give up eating for fear of choking. He wanted to stop this argument. But Jiang Tian still said, the acquisition of Huajin Group, one of the top 10 state-owned enterprises in Zhonghai, was controlled by the Yi family behind the scenes. A company with a real value of 12 billion. You only spent 300 million to get it, and you used the Social Security Fund. The Yi family is robbing money. I admire you. For a moment, everyone looked at the Yi family suspiciously. Their attitudes seemed to be shaken. They were also very curious as to how Jiang Tian knew all this. But Jiang Tian was too clear about this. In his previous life, in 2011, the Zhonghai Social Security Fund case and the Yi family's family-style corruption case broke out. Many of the Yi family's executives were arrested, and it shook the whole country. Due to the huge amount of money involved, the nature of the case was bad, and it was a classic example. It also caused a lot of controversy in the economic field. Some scholars said, This is a Wuxia-style embryo filled with flowers and traps. They even published a book on the case. The first case was the case of the management of Huajin Group, being embryo at a low price. Wang Tianhe pointed at Jiang Tian and reprimanded. You didn't participate in the restructuring of this company, so what do you know about the inside story? It's complete nonsense. Just based on your words, I can sue you for slander. But after he said that, he felt that the threat was weak and powerless. Jiang Tian was not afraid to admit that he had killed someone, or even killed an entire family. Why would he be afraid of this? The ignorant are fearless. You don't know anything, so you dare to say anything. Impudent brat. But he managed to pull everyone back from their shock. For a moment, everyone was scolding him. Wang Tianhe sneered. Jiang Tian, you are indeed a genius, but you should know that there is always someone better than you. I don't know why you dare to look down on the powerful families of Zhonghai. Grandmaster Jiang is not an ordinary person. He is a martial arts expert and a master of magic arts. He once cured Elder Tang of Linzhou's strange disease, and can drink and chat merrily with Secretary Tang Weiman of Lingnan Yangcheng, right? Yi Haochen looked at Jiang Tian with a half-smile. He was like a wise man. Old man Tang? Tang Guozhu? Tang Weiman's father? Everyone gasped in shock. They had never thought that Jiang Tian was so powerful. However, the shock only lasted for a second. Tang Weiman was working in Linzhou City, which was too far away from Zhonghai. Yi Weihao, on the other hand, was the mayor of Zhonghai. He would soon become the secretary of the government, and become an important member of the government. How could the Tang family compare to him? Does he think he can do whatever he wants with the Tang family? When I meet Tang Weiman in the future, I will ask him if he can do whatever he wants. Yi Weihao finally opened his mouth and snorted. The Yi family was one of the top 3 families in Zhonghai. However, the Tang family had only risen to power in the last 2 years. If it was 3 years ago, even Tang Guozhu would have to be courteous to Yi Qida and call him old sir. He wasn't afraid of Tang Weiman or even Elder Tang, let alone Jiang Tian, a mere guest of the Tang clan. Suddenly, a middle-aged man with neatly combed hair walked out of the banquet hall with a glass of red wine in his hand. He smiled and said, Old man Yi, ladies and gentlemen, Secretary Fan may be very busy, but he has been keeping a close eye on the free trade zone between Zhonghai and Singapore. That is why he sent me here to congratulate you on the smooth progress of the negotiations. Here is a toast to all of you. Isn't Director Lu working for Secretary Fan? Boss Fu's face darkened. He slapped his thigh and laughed. This time, Jiang Tian is not going to make a comeback. Master Kong is a powerful man, but I'm afraid he is not going to make it. Boss Zhang heaved a sigh and said regretfully. Everyone's face paled when they saw the newcomer. Even Mai Shilong and Han Yan started to worry about Jiang Tian. They had never thought that the Yi family would invite Director Lu, one of Secretary Fan's most trusted men, to the banquet. Now that Director Lu was on the Yi family's side, Secretary Fan's attitude was clear as day. The Wang family of Zhonghai had great influence in the judicial field of the Yangtze River Delta region. The Yi family had the backing of a governor and a leading economist. The Su family was one of the most powerful families in the Jin City military. With the support of Secretary Fan of Su Province and He Junyi of Singapore, they could crush 10 Jiang families. Wang Tianhe, Su Yuhang, Yi Haochen, He Junyi. These people were all heavyweights. When they came over, Jiang Tian might be able to rely on his relationship with the Tang clan to resist them. However, as soon as Director Lu arrived, a heavy weight was immediately placed on the table. Even the Tang family was rendered useless. After all, the Tang family's influence was limited to Lingnan, and could not reach the Su province. Tang Weiman was just the secretary of the provincial government. He was not even in the top 3 on the standing committee. Secretary Fan, on the other hand, was the highest-ranking official in the Su province. Furthermore, Secretary Fan was in charge of the Su province, and his words carried weight. The Su province was his territory. No matter how powerful Jiang Tian was, he was just a commoner in the Su province. How could he withstand Secretary Fan's pressure? By then, the Tang family was useless, so Jiang Tian could only rely on himself to face the powerful families of Zhonghai. However, with his own strength, how could he make a comeback? Seeing that Director Liu had appeared on behalf of Secretary Fan, Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Secretary Fan had been transferred to the Su province in the past month. He did not even show up when Chao Shixiang visited the old man's birthday. He probably did not know about the Jiang family's background at all. Maybe he had some ties with the Yi family, so he decided to stand up for them. However, if he knew the true strength of Jiang Tian and the Jiang family, he would probably avoid them. Master Kong, aren't you very powerful? I wonder how you can turn the tables in this situation. Yi Haochen took a sip of red wine and said with a mocking smile, I'm afraid you're at your wit's end now. Alas, Qing, if you didn't have Yi Haochen as a comparison, you would have become a phoenix after marrying Jiang Tian. However, compared to Yi Haochen, who is a real noble, your husband is far inferior. You should have held on to Boss Yi back then. Even if you missed him, you shouldn't have hit him. Your husband is fueling the conflict again. At this time, even Su Jie's mentality was shaken again, and a look of regret flashed in her eyes. Chapter 334. When Jiang Tian gifted Zhao Xueqing a $1 billion cruise ship, she was envious of him. However, compared to Yi Haochen's power and influence, Jiang Tian looked like a country bumpkin. Moreover, it was not as simple as showing off his family background and connections. First, they would arrange the troops, and then they would probably drive the tiger to devour the wolf. The Jiang family was in danger, and Jiang Tian might even be imprisoned, his family ruined. She shook her head with a wry smile, and mumbled under her breath. So many twists and turns. I have seen him build a skyscraper and host a banquet, and now the building is going to collapse. At this time, there was a commotion at the boarding gate. Su Yuhang, accompanied by a general, walked over quickly. They were Officer Su from the Zhonghai Garrison Force, and a senior official from the Jin City military. Isn't that Su Yuhang and his father? They are here to suppress Master Kong? This time it's really over. Grandmaster Jiang will die without a burial ground. My Shilong's face paled as his heart sank. Even if Jiang Tian was a martial arts expert and a master of sorcery, how could he have the strength to fight against such a force? Behind them were many high-ranking officials from Singapore's government and military, including Prime Minister Li Xianlong. What was even more terrifying was that they were accompanied by a large number of armed police officers. This battle formation is monstrous. Boss Fu's heart skipped a beat. The climax of the night had finally arrived. He would be able to witness the fall of Jiang Tian with his own eyes. Meanwhile, Boss Zhang heaved a sigh and said, Master Kong is a genius, but he doesn't know how to be patient. If he had been patient for another 20 years, he might have been able to stand up to the Yi family. Someone complained resentfully. Boss Zhang, you're asking him to endure it? How is that possible? He is just a nouveau riche. His grandpa is just a doctor, and his dad used to be a divisional leader. Now that his dad has been promoted and his mom has become rich, he is going to be arrogant. In the final analysis, their foundation is still too weak. They think that they are rich just because they have a little bit of money and power, and their mentality is inflated. How could they know that compared with the Yi and Wang family, the Jiang family is just a nouveau riche? Someone sneered. On the deck, facing Yi Haochen's interrogation, everyone thought that Jiang Tian would definitely lower his head and admit defeat. Unexpectedly, he only shook his head indifferently, looked around at everyone, and said with a chuckle, Yi Haochen, is this your insignificant reliance? Insignificant support? Everyone was taken aback. Even Yi Haochen almost spat out a mouthful of red wine. Bro, you like to show off, but you should at least evaluate your opponent's strength. Unless you are really the illegitimate son of a central government boss, as the rumors say, how can you deal with such a situation? Jiang Tian looked at Yi Haochen indifferently and said lazily, Yi Haochen, I will give you 2 days. I hope you can figure out my background and back off. After all, you helped my wife in the past and I don't want to embarrass you. He took a sip of the juice and shook his head regretfully. 2 days isn't a short time, but you only managed to find out this much information, and found a few crooked melons to be your reinforcements. I really overestimated you. You really disappoint me. In fact, Jiang Tian really overestimated the Yi family's ability. To put it bluntly, the Yi family was just a secular family with a few officials and a few enterprises. Their assets were only tens of billions, which was far from the Jiang family. They could not be compared to the Guo family of Xingzhou, who controlled hundreds of billions of XINU dollars and almost trillions of Wuxia dollars, and could influence the politics of a country. But what about the Guo family of Xingzhou? Jiang Tian could destroy them with a wave of his hand. They were the support of the Xingzhou Chinese Association, which had a transcendent status. Jiang Tian could destroy them with a wave of his hand. What was a mere Yi family? The Wei family of Yangcheng, the Hong family of Yi province, and the Mo family of Lingnan were all big families that dominated a province. They had many martial artists and sorcerers, had a history of hundreds of years, and controlled several listed companies. How could the Su and Wang families compare to them? But Jiang Tian still destroyed them with a wave of his hand. Chao Shixiang was a real central government official. His granddaughter Chao Jianjia was not a good-for-nothing, and was a member of the Long Formation. But at the Martial Arts Alliance conference, Jiang Tian still slapped them in the face. As a result, Chao Shixiang came over on grandfather Jiang Chongging's birthday and asked Chao Jianjia to apologize. Jiang Tian was now the first grandmaster on the divine list in Wuxia. He was only one step away from the real immortal state. He was able to compete with Yi Zhantian, and was even showing signs of catching up with him. The central government officials would either try to rope him in or keep him at arm's length, but no one dared to offend him. However, Jiang Tian had overestimated Yi Haochen's ability to uncover his true identity. They were not even as powerful as the Tang family, the Bai family, and the Tai family of Lingnan. They might be on par in terms of wealth and political influence, but the three major families of Lingnan were at least on par with the Wei family and the Mo family. But the Yi family of Zhonghai had no such resources. Whether he was the top grandmaster on the divine list, the top 3 on the CIA dark roll, the martial arts consultant of Zhanlong, or the grand preceptor of Xingzhou, these were all secrets in the world of martial arts. Clans like the Yi clan and the Wang clan appeared to be very powerful, but at the end of the day, they were just secular clans. They didn't even have the qualifications to hear this news. Maybe the Su family knew because they were backed by the military and had their own sources of information. Therefore, Yi Haochen's investigation was limited to Jiang Tian's political connections. He thought that Jiang Tian was the Tang family's guest elder, and had to rely on the Tang family. Little did he know that the Tang family was relying on him. Poor Yi Haochen. His cleverness had backfired on him. He had neglected the essentials and chased after the trifles. What do you mean? Yi Haochen's eyes glinted with uncertainty. He couldn't understand why Jiang Tian was still willing to fight to the death with the army of Xingzhou. Was he not going to give up until he saw the coffin? What I mean is, you're an idiot who doesn't know the difference between life and death. Jiang Tian's face was calm as he smiled faintly. Yi Haochen was so angry that the veins on his forehead were throbbing. He wanted to punch Jiang Tian in the face. Forget it, young Master Yi. He is just being stubborn. Why do you have to lower yourself to his level? Wang Tianhe stopped him and signaled Su Yuhang and the others with his eyes, indicating that they should watch from the sidelines. Sai, the situation is over. He should have admitted defeat and given up. Maybe he would have had a chance to live. But the young man is too hot-tempered and wants to fight to the death. How could he have known that the situation is far beyond his control? Boss Fu shook his head and sighed. Yes, the strong are easy to break. Sometimes emotional intelligence is very important. Boss Zhang also looked regretful. He got up and wanted to go to the cabin. He couldn't bear to see Jiang Tian's tragic fate. He was a farmer who had made tens of billions of yuan by contracting small factories in towns to make car parts. Speaking of which, he recognized Jiang Tian, who started from scratch and didn't rely on political protection. He even saw the daring and reckless Jiang Tian in the past. But in the new century, the social environment had changed significantly. The tide of the underworld had fallen, the grass had retreated, and dragons and snakes were dormant. In this world, the rich and powerful had the final say. Qinger, your husband will get you killed. Don't be foolish. Hurry up and beg young Master Yi. Su Jie couldn't stand it anymore. She pulled Zhao Xueqing's hand and said, Young Master Yi is very affectionate towards you. All of this happened because of you. If you lower your head and beg for mercy, he will definitely let you go. You saw it too. The Yi family is a real rich and powerful family. How can the Jiang family afford to offend them? Zhao Xueqing's face was calm. She gently broke away from her and held Jiang Tian's hand. Their fingers intertwined, and a sweet and stable smile appeared on her face. She looked at Jiang Tian's side profile affectionately and said softly, I won't lower my head. My husband doesn't need to lower his head to anyone because he is the strongest man. He alone is the strongest, rich and powerful family in the world. Huh. Su Jie was completely stunned. She was dumbfounded and couldn't believe it. All the rich people present were also stunned. Did this girl watch too many dramas about domineering CEOs? She was too stupid and chinibu. At this time, Su Yuheng suddenly increased his speed, walking over towards Jiang Tian with large strides. Little Su, go easy on him. After all, this is a foreign occasion, Yi Haochen said as he walked over. However, deep in his eyes, there was a strong sense of schadenfreude. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Su Yuheng quickly walked behind Jiang Tian. Then he slammed his legs together, raised his right hand to his eyebrows, and straightened his back like a javelin. It was a standard military salute. He shouted, Consultant Jiang, Colonel Su Yuheng salutes you. For a moment, the entire hall was silent. Everyone looked at this scene with their mouths agape. They were full of confusion and disbelief. Consultant? What consultant? Wang Tianhe asked subconsciously, his face full of astonishment. What consultant? Of course, it's Battle Dragon's martial arts consultant. Moreover, it's the title of chief consultant. Han Yener said coquettishly. Her peerlessly enchanting face was 3 parts curious, 3 parts respectful, and a little bit excited. Master Kang's counterattack was about to begin. If she wasn't married to my Shilong, she would have thrown herself at him even if she was his mistress. What? Battle Dragon's martial arts consultant. The entire hall was shocked. Everyone's eyes were filled with awe. Battle Dragon was the trump card of the General Staff Department. It was far more powerful than the special forces of ordinary military regions. Silver Fox of the Jinling military region and Fierce Tiger of the Lingnan military region were worlds apart from them. Of course, Battle Dragon's level of secrecy was very high. Very few people knew who was in charge and who was in charge of it. However, this didn't prevent people from knowing what Battle Dragon's martial arts consultant meant. Zhanlong's martial arts consultant could be said to have a higher status than the chief instructor. Those who could become Zhanlong's martial arts consultant were all martial arts giants. Even Tang Guozhu was far from that position. Only martial arts tyrants like Hong Tianzhao, Zhao Yuankuan, Mo Haoxiong, and Wu Yingxiong were qualified. Furthermore, Battle Dragon's martial arts consultants were all highly sought after by the military. If they had the intention to pursue an official career, they would be promoted to Major General. He is Battle Dragon's martial arts consultant. Boss Fu's eyes were wide open. For the first time, he realized that Jiang Tian could turn the tables. This is going to be interesting. Boss Zhang, who had lost interest and was about to leave, sat down again and looked at Jiang Tian in shock. Chapter 335. No wonder Lin Zhou's Tang family fully supports him. He's Battle Dragon's martial arts consultant. Someone in the audience murmured to himself. Although Yi Weihao could suppress Jiang Tian in terms of position, Jiang Tian could even surpass Yi Weihao in terms of influence. This was because of Battle Dragon's uniqueness. There was an old saying in the influential class, the Central Guard Bureau is inside and the Battle Dragon Special Forces is outside. In other words, the Central Guard Bureau was responsible for the safety of the Central Guard Bureau, but the Battle Dragon Special Forces took the initiative to attack and carry out top-secret missions. In peacetime, Battle Dragon was one of the few frontline combat forces, and its importance was self-evident. Therefore, Battle Dragon was also trusted by the Central Guard Bureau's big shots. Battle Dragon's martial arts consultant's influence was far beyond that of an ordinary major general. Jiang Tian ignored Wang Tianhe, Yi Haochen, and the others' horrified gazes and looked at Su Yuhang. He said indifferently, "Do you know who I am now?" "Reporting to the chief consultant, I know." Su Yuhang's face was full of reverence. He straightened his body again, but he still couldn't help but tremble slightly. He said with tears in his eyes, "I went to Battle Dragon to receive 3 months of secret training this year. The martial arts I learned were all precious treasures left by Master Kong to Battle Dragon. Unfortunately, I was kicked out of Battle Dragon because I failed the assessment 3 years ago. I returned to Jinling Military District to be the chief instructor of Silver Fox." He roared loudly, "But once in Battle Dragon, always in Battle Dragon. As your student, I rudely offended you. Please punish me." "Little Su, you're wrong. It doesn't matter if you offended Chief Consultant Jiang or not. You shouldn't have hit people." Jiang Tianyu sincerely reprimanded. "You're living off the country's salary, and you've learned monstrous skills. As an elite in the army, your fists should be used to protect the country, not to stand up for your friends, fight for your friends' favor, and bully the common people." "Yes, Chief Consultant is right." Su Yuhang's tears rolled down, and his face was full of shame. When he arrived at the Battle Dragon special training 3 months ago, he was deeply shocked by the tyrant body spirit liquid and various martial skill training methods left behind by Jiang Tian. It was also said that Zhan Long had gone to the northeast to intercept the remnants of Qiao Bin's party, who had been relying on Russia. His achievements were so great that they were even better than Yi Zhantian's long formation. From then on, he worshipped Chief Advisor Jiang to the extreme, but he did not know the identity of Chief Advisor Jiang. After being tortured by Jiang Tian, he became more cautious and called his father. Only then did he know that Jiang Tian was the famous Kong Teichu. "It's good that you know you're wrong. Go back. You'll be grounded for 10 days. Resign from all your positions and start from the bottom." Jiang Tian said calmly, "Yes, Chief Consultant." Su Yuhang didn't even hesitate for a moment. He immediately saluted, turned around and strode away. Everyone was shocked. Everyone looked at the tall figure on the deck in astonishment. What did it mean to subdue an enemy without a fight? This was what it meant to subdue an enemy without a fight. It could be said that Jiang Tian dealt with Su Yuhang without any hesitation. With just a few words, Su Yuhang's position and future were decided. So he has such a powerful trump card. No wonder Qing'er is so confident in him. Su Jie murmured to herself in shock. At this moment, she was once again envious of Zhao Xueqing. It could be said that Jiang Tian alone could suppress Yi Haochen with the title of Zhanlong's martial arts consultant. After all, Zhanlong was a member of the special forces under the Supreme General Staff. His influence was far greater than that of the general major generals. The fact that he could compete with Yi Weihao was already beyond the reach of the general magnates. Everyone present also realized this point. For a moment, Wang Tianhe, Yi Haochen, and the others were silent. Even Secretary Fan's favorite, Director Liu, wanted to retreat. He retreated to a secluded corner and anxiously made a phone call to report the situation to his superior. After all, Secretary Fan only had some relationship with the Yi family. They were far from being allies. Why would he need to break his head for you and Jiang Tian? However, a martial arts consultant of Zhanlong won't make the Yi family retreat. Jiang Tian publicly swept away the Yi family's face. How can Yi Cheetah be willing to leave the matter at that? Boss Fu suddenly opened his folding fan and gently fanned himself. He smiled calmly and said, "The Yi family also has a governor. Moreover, Yi Cheetah is the teacher of the emperor. In terms of seniority and experience, Elder Yi is still a notch above him. If Old Master Yi is determined to suppress him, the Yi family has a better chance of winning." That's not necessarily true. I think Master Kong is not a reckless person even though he acts like a storm. If he wasn't completely confident, he would never go against the Yi family. Boss Zhang said excitedly. "Boss Zhang, you seem to be in the mood to watch the show. Do you dare to make a bet?" Boss Fu smiled. "Sure. If Master Kong turns the tables, You'll have to give me Chi Baisher's bamboo and stone painting that you just bought at the Christie's autumn auction for 10 million. Boss Zhang immediately accepted the challenge. Everyone kept their mouths shut and looked at Yi Qida. In the current situation, Yi Haochen, Wang Tianhe, He Junyi, and even Yi Weihao were useless. Other than Yi Qida, no one could suppress Jiang Tian. Only Yi Qida could decide whether to fight or to make peace. How could Yi Qida not know Jiang Tian's current strength? How could he not know the danger of this battle? It could be said that he was 30% afraid of Jiang Tian, 30% in admiration, and 40% in importance. However, the stronger Jiang Tian was, the more he wanted to kill Jiang Tian. The grudge had already been formed, and Jiang Tian also knew some of the Yi family's scandals during the restructuring of the state-owned enterprises. This was not as simple as a battle of loyalty, but a life-and-death battle. Jiang Tian was still young and relatively weak, but he had a lot of room for growth. Who could imagine what kind of monster Jiang Tian would grow into in 10 or 20 years? The best way was to nip the bud in the bud while he was still weak. He could not let the tiger return to the mountain. Thinking of this, Yi Qida's eyes flashed, and he said in a deep voice, "Master Kong, you are indeed extraordinary, but even a prince is punished the same as a commoner. You broke the limbs of a prince in public, and your hands were stained with blood. Even if Tang Hongtu and Chao Shixiang were here, this old man would also ask, is Battle Dragon's people allowed to commit such atrocities and disregard military law?" Yi Qida was like a high mountain eagle, looking down at the young man who seemed to be standing proudly in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "Moreover, you are only a martial arts consultant of Battle Dragon. You have no military position. You are nothing but a Jianghu bumpkin. How dare you offend the delegation of Zhonghai and affect the economic development of two countries? This is a major event that the central government is paying attention to. If there is a chance, I would like to ask the central government if you have the right to do so." As soon as these words came out, the whole place was filled with murderous intent. Flattery after flattery came one after another. Even if Chao Shixiang stepped forward, he might not be able to help Jiang Tian block it. Even Zhao Xueqing was a little nervous. Jiang Tian's behavior could be light or heavy. If it was light, it could be considered a fight, but if it was serious, it could be considered as offending the delegation of foreign affairs that represented the government and the country's dignity. Even if it was not put into law, Yi Qida would still make it worse if he reported it to the central government. Although Jiang Tian was related to the military, how could the country not be afraid of his supernatural power? It should be noted that many countries used nuclear weapons to attack and deter immortal state warriors in the past. Otherwise, how could there be this transcendent strength of 10,000 horses? And how could there be the current peace and prosperity? Killing, keeping, using, or suppressing Jiang Tian's supernatural power was only a matter of time for the central government officials to decide. In an instant, many thoughts flashed through Zhao Xueqing's mind. But as smart as she was, there was nothing she could do. She clenched her fists so hard that her fingernails dug into the flesh of her palms. The next moment, Yi Qida looked at Li Xianlong and said in a deep voice, "Premierly, although this man is from Wuxia, he deliberately hurt people in Singapore. Please mobilize the military and police to arrest him." Li Xianlong's Chinese was not very good. Seeing that Jiang Tian seemed to have a conflict with them, he kept asking the interpreter to introduce him. Hearing this, Li Xianlong immediately became anxious. He quickly walked up to Jiang Tian and bowed deeply. He spoke in the most respectful tone he had ever used in his life. "Lord State Preceptor, if you have any orders, I will carry them out to the letter. Would you like me to deport them?" Lord State Preceptor? When the crowd heard those words, they were all completely shocked and confused. Everyone stared in shock at the monarch of the Singapore continent, who was kneeling in front of Jiang Tian, as if he was a believer facing a god. He is the State Preceptor of Singapore? Everyone present was stunned. They were so shocked that they were tongue-tied. It was as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Clatter! The wine glass in Yi Haochen's hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Su Jia covered her red lips and suppressed the exclamation that was about to come out. Her full breasts rose and fell violently, creating dazzling ripples. Wasn't Jiang Tian from Jin City? How did he suddenly become the state preceptor of Singapore? This was unbelievable. In particular, He Junyi's expression changed abruptly. His brows were tightly knitted together, and a grave expression appeared on his face. What? He Junyi's face paled. He suddenly thought of a possibility and broke out in a cold sweat. Even Yi Cheetah's brows furrowed, and his heart sank. How could he be the state preceptor of Singapore? Primarily, you must be mistaken. He was a Wuxia citizen through and through. Moreover, he was still a lunatic 2 years ago. Director Hu shouted anxiously with a pale face. He had been driven crazy by Jiang Tian. What was going on? The visiting team of Zhonghai had run into a wall one after another. However, Jiang Tian had shown his trump cards repeatedly, and each one was more terrifying than the last. First, he was the crown prince of the Jiang family, the owner of Princess Jenny, the chief consultant of Battle Dragon Club, and now he was the state preceptor of Singapore. What the fuck? However, he couldn't believe it. There must be a mistake. It must be a lie. It was impossible. Sir, please be careful with your words. Li Xianlong didn't know who the man was. After all, Director Hu was only Li Weihao's butler. However, even if it was Yi Weihao who said it, he still had to talk back. Li Xianlong said solemnly, "The state preceptor of Xing Continent is the guardian of Xing Continent. He's the god of the people of Xing Continent. How dare you speak of our state preceptor Jiang Taichu in such a manner? Banishing you from the country is already a light punishment. I'll sentence you to life imprisonment or even death by shooting you." Chapter 336. The majesty of the ruler of a country was not to be trifled with. Director Hu's face was pale. He was so scared that he trembled and did not dare to speak. Kong Taichu. Suddenly, Mr. Zhang slapped his thigh and shouted excitedly. A few days ago, I heard that Kong Taichu bought the Guo family's assets worth hundreds of billions of XINU dollars, which is equivalent to trillions of Wuxia dollars. Could it be the Grandmaster Jiang in front of us? Yes, it's him. I heard that he's already the chairman of the Guo group, but he only appeared once during Guo Lily's CEO ceremony. After that, there was no news of him. Another tycoon said in realization. Even if the state preceptor controls the Guo family, he can't break the law and attack our delegation, right? Wang Tianhe's eyes were red with anger. He shouted, "Since he's a citizen of Wuxia, he has to abide by the laws of Wuxia. He broke my son's limbs. There's evidence and witnesses. There's no way he can deny it. Unless he never returns to Wuxia. If he does, I'll sue him." As soon as he said this, many people nodded in agreement. Jiang Tian was a citizen of Wuxia. Singapore believed in feng shui, but Wuxia was a materialistic country. They did not believe in such things. As long as he returned to Wuxia, he would be sued. It didn't matter how much money he had. Even if Guo Shihai did this, he would have to pay a certain price. After all, his son was lying on the hospital bed. If he bowed his head and apologized, civil compensation and even criminal liability would be difficult to escape. At this time, Han Yan'er had confirmed Jiang Tian's identity and knew that the information she had gathered was true. She said softly, "The state preceptor of Singapore and the Guo family wouldn't dare to attack the rich and powerful of Wuxia. But what if Master Kong is the top grandmaster on the divine roll of Wuxia? That's the number 1 grandmaster on the divine list. Not to mention breaking Wang Quan's limbs, even if he killed him, so what?" She looked at Jiang Tian like a die-hard fan who had just met her idol. "Also, do you think that Master Kong invested in the acquisition of the Guo family in Singapore? The Jiang family only has a few $100 billion worth of assets. Even if they sold everything they had, they wouldn't be able to buy the Guo family." As soon as she said this, many rich people felt that it was inconceivable. Their outlook on life was overturned and smashed to pieces. Can a grandmaster on the divine list get away with murder? What do you mean? The Jiang family can't afford to buy the Guo family. Is there any inside story? I heard that there was some internal strife in the Guo family some time ago. Guo Lily hired an expert to kill her father and grandfather. Everyone whispered to each other and discussed animatedly. The Guo family owes Master Kong 10 billion, but they will never repay it. Mr. Jiang will step into the Guo family, eliminate the two family heads, Guo Shihai and Guo Junfeng, and push Guo Lily to the top. Han Yener smiled. So he was the one who destroyed the Guo family. Yi Haochen was horrified. Plop. Plop. He Junyi couldn't take it anymore. He knelt on the ground, and was the first to surrender. He slapped himself in the face and said with tears and snot running down his face, State Preceptor Jiang, please forgive me. I have eyes but failed to recognize your greatness. I know I was wrong. He was so scared that he almost peed his pants. State Preceptor Jiang had destroyed the Guo family, the most powerful Chinese family in Singapore. Even his grandfather and father were terrified of him, and had to suck up to him. If he killed him, wouldn't it be as easy as crushing an ant? What? That's impossible. Wang Tianhe couldn't believe it. The Guo family has dominated Singapore for so many years. They were even welcomed by the central government of Wuxia. How could he have killed them? Why didn't the government of Singapore do anything about it? That's right. I don't believe it either. Boss Fu felt that he was about to lose the famous painting, so he grumbled. Even the rich people found it hard to believe. Master Kang's identity had changed a lot. One moment he was a crazy rich kid. Then he was the prince of the Jiang family. Then he was the Master Kong of Jin City. Then he was the martial arts consultant of Battle Dragon. Now he was the CEO of the Guo family group and the state preceptor of Singapore. The Guo family was one of the four most powerful families in Singapore. They had hundreds of billions of XINU dollars in assets. Even the Yap family and the Wang family combined couldn't compare to them. However, Jiang Tian was so young, yet he was able to control so much wealth. It was unbelievable. Most importantly, he was still fine after killing the entire Guo family. Furthermore, he was even appointed as the state preceptor by the Singaporean government. This was even more miraculous. This is the truth of the martial arts world. Only the strong are respected. The weak are like ants. Han Yener smiled and said, Master Kong also killed the Guo family's backer, Wang Chongyan, and became the most powerful overlord in Singapore and the entire Southeast Asia. A few days ago, Prime Minister Li Xianlong saw him become the state preceptor of Singapore. Maybe you don't know what it means to be the top grandmaster on the divine roll. You must have heard of Yi Wudao, right? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone became solemn. Even Yi Qida had a serious expression on his face. The Yi family of Zhejiang province was a family that had been famous for 100 years. They were known as the Yi family of Jiangnan. Yi Wudao was the head of a martial arts family. His prestige shook the entire Yangtze River Delta, and he controlled hundreds of billions of assets. Like an arbitrator, he ruled the world and whipped the heroes. Even the millionaires on the Forbes list had to look up to him and try to befriend him. Everyone in the room knew about him, and they were afraid of him. Han Yener said proudly, On the long formation divine roll, Yi Wudao is ranked 6th and Master Kong is ranked 1st. Don't you know what it means? As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked. They didn't know who the top grandmaster on the divine roll was before. But now they finally understood. Yi Wudao had dominated the Yangtze River Delta for decades. Even the Yi Qida family had to avoid him. Even Leaf Daodinier was shocked by the words Grandmaster Jiang. It went without saying how important they were. At this moment, there were many people who were looking at Jiang Tian with horrified expressions. Many people were shaken, not daring to face him head-on. Even Yi Haochen was speechless. Jiang Tian's power was beyond his imagination. The prince of the Jiang family, the Guo family, the imperial preceptor of Xingzhou, and the top grandmaster on the divine roll. Each of these identities was more terrifying than the last. Moreover, any one of these identities was not something he could compare to. Even the Yi Qida family had to be wary of them and treat them with caution. Haha, he's just a nobody after all. Wuxia is a country where the people are the masters. Yi Qida's right hand trembled as he sneered. In fact, he was already scared out of his wits. However, he had been renowned for many years and possessed great prestige. How could he possibly lower his head and admit defeat to a junior? Meanwhile, Li Xianlong looked at the boarding gate and said, Everyone, the special envoy of Wuxia, Secretary Shen, is on his way. What? Secretary Shen is coming? The entire place was in an uproar, and it was boiling with excitement. The battle formation was unprecedentedly vast, and everyone was shocked. Secretary Shen was the personal secretary of the central government's chief. He was the special envoy of the Red Nation. Sure enough, accompanied by 2 bodyguards in black and a few Chinese officials, Secretary Shen, who was wearing a white shirt, walked over quickly. Yichida hurried over and held Secretary Shen's hand tightly. He said excitedly, "Secretary Shen, why are you here?" "Oh, the chief attached great importance to the construction of the free trade zone. He asked me to come and take a look." Secretary Shen only held Yichida's hand with one hand. His expression was reserved, without the slightest hint of a smile. But everyone thought it was natural. Secretary Shen didn't have a high administrative rank, but he was the chief's personal secretary. He was highly regarded by the chief. Yi Weihao, Wang Tianhe, Director Liu and the others also hurried over to shake hands. But Secretary Shen turned a blind eye to them. Instead, he walked quickly to Jiang Tian, grabbed Jiang Tian's big hand with both hands, shook it fiercely, and said with enthusiasm, "I heard that Master Kong was crowned the Grand Preceptor of Singapore and the President of the Chinese Society. I congratulate you on behalf of the central government." "What? Secretary Shen, you know Master Kong?" Many people exclaimed. Yi Weihao, Yi Haochen, Wang Tianhe and the others were even more shocked. Of course. The central government's leaders often mention Master Kang's name. Secretary Shen said solemnly, "They say that having Master Kong in Wuxia is the fortune of the people, the nation and the country." The chief even said that Master Kong is a hero of the nation and a good general of the country. His words were like a hammer strike. Everyone was shocked, and no one dared to say a word. "You flatter me, chief." Jiang Tian replied faintly. Jiang Tian knew the power of the Grand Preceptor of Singapore and the President of the Chinese Society. They were the emperors of Southeast Asia. Their words and actions could influence the national policy and the attitude of the people toward Wuxia. The central government's leaders must have realized that having a good relationship with him could eliminate conflicts and promote cooperation and development with the Southeast Asian countries. However, even though Jiang Tian was crowned the Grand Preceptor of Singapore, he still had to be careful when facing Wuxia, a powerful country with a thriving economy, a large population, advanced nuclear weapons, and a powerful army. "You are right." Secretary Shen tightened his grip on Jiang Tian's left hand and patted Jiang Tian's big hand with his right hand. He was full of praise. Grandmaster Zhang's invention of many medicines is of great significance to the development of China's military logistics. In the battle on Mount Everest, he protected the dignity of the country and its people. In Jinling, he massacred many strong people from the Dark World. Then in Singapore, he destroyed the big conspiracy of the Blue Cloth Society that was unfavorable to China. He is ranked 3rd in the world's strong list by the CIA. If this is not a hero, then what is? Secretary Shen was a favorite of the chief. He had access to all kinds of secrets. It could be said that Wuxia was almost transparent to him. The information he had access to was far beyond the level of Wang Tianhe, Yi Weihao, and Secretary Fan. Even Yichida was far behind. He was only proficient in the field of economics. "What is the strong ranking?" Yi Haochen asked, his voice full of shock and unwillingness. When the chief's comments were conveyed, everyone present kept their mouths shut and remained silent. Even the secretaries of Yichida, Yi Weihao, and Secretary Fan did not dare to question it. After all, this was the verdict of the higher-ups. It was too heavy. Presumptuously criticizing the central government was a serious crime. You would be stripped of your crown and beaten to a prisoner. However, Yi Haochen originally thought that he could control Jiang Tian with a scheme. However, Jiang Tian actually turned the tables in such a beautiful way. He was too aggrieved and could not accept it. A hint of impatience flashed in the depths of Secretary Shen's eyes. However, he still said calmly, "With your level, you are not qualified to come into contact with such core secrets. I only need to tell you that the top 3, or even the top 10, are existences that the major countries of the world are not willing to provoke. Their influence in the world is comparable to that of a small country's leader. The moment he said this, the whole place fell into dead silence. Everyone was shocked. Everyone was flabbergasted. They were so shocked that they could not say a word. Chapter 337. The Yi family was one of the top families in Zhonghai, but they didn't even have the right to know about the power rankings. It was not hard to imagine how powerful the power rankings was, and how powerful Jiang Tian was. Yi Haochen sensed Secretary Shun's arrogance. Flames of anger rose in his eyes, but he quickly suppressed it. Secretary Shun was too important. He was the Red Envoy of the central government. Even Dad and Grandpa had to be respectful to him. How could Yi Haochen fight back? After all, Secretary Shun represented the central government. His words were the central government's mouthpiece. Whoever dared to disrespect Secretary Shun was disrespecting the central government's authority. It was a capital offense. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the calm Jiang Tian. A deep sense of sorrow and regret rose in his heart. He had thought that Jiang Tian was just a country bumpkin. How could he compare with him in terms of wealth? But now he realized that just like what Zhao Xueqing said, he alone is the most powerful family in the world. Jiang Tian had already gained the upper hand. Yi Weihao, Wang Tianhe, and the others felt like 10,000 alpacas were galloping in their hearts. Who would have thought that Jiang Tian could achieve so much at such a young age? Secretary Liu of Su Province was sweating profusely. After the call with Secretary Fan asked him to apologize to Jiang Tian immediately. But the question was, would Jiang Tian still accept the apology? Boss Fu, Boss Zhang, and the other tycoons of Zhonghai were all dumbfounded. Today's battle was full of twists and turns. Jiang Tian had turned the tables. In the end, Secretary Shun made the final decision. The Yi family of Zhonghai, the Wang family, and the He family of Xingzhou lost everything. No matter how powerful the Yi family of Zhonghai was, how could they be an enemy of the central government? They were digging their own graves. Boss Fu, hurry up and give me that bamboo and stone painting of Zheng Banqiao. Boss Zhang laughed proudly. Fine. I'll give it to you. I lost 5 million, but I got to watch today's show. It's not a loss. Boss Fu laughed. Boss Zhang's face suddenly turned cold. The show isn't over yet. I heard that Master Kong has the heart of an ambitious and ruthless person. Today, the Yi family won't have a good ending. Even Zhonghai is going to change. As expected, Jiang Tian's counterattack soon began. He first looked at Wang Tianhe and sneered. Wang Tianhe, I broke your son's limbs. Do you still want to sue me? This. Wang Tianhe's body trembled, and his face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Cold sweat poured out from his forehead. Mr. Jiang, what's going on? Secretary Shun frowned and asked in a deep voice. Jiang Tian didn't want to waste time talking, so Han Yan went up and told him what had happened. When Secretary Shun heard this, his face immediately turned gloomy. He said sternly, Mr. Wang, do you know the crime of insulting and offending a National Hero Medal recipient? I'm afraid even Wang Pingjiang wouldn't be able to withstand it. Wang Tianhe couldn't hold it in anymore. Jiang Tian was now highly regarded by the central government. If he offended Jiang Tian, not even 100 Wang family members would be able to stop him. He bowed deeply and said with a trembling voice, Mr. Jiang, I apologize to you on behalf of my son. It's the Wang family's fault for not teaching him well, and offending Mr. Jiang. Please show mercy and forgive us. Jiang Tian cracked a smile and didn't say anything. Wang Tianhe's heart skipped a beat. Master Kong clearly didn't want to let him and the Wang family off the hook. When he thought about Jiang Tian's bloody massacre of the Nie family, his knees buckled. He knelt down and kowtowed. Master Kong, it is our fault for not recognizing you. Please forgive us, Master Kong. At that moment, everyone was stunned. A dead silence fell over the room. Everyone was flabbergasted. They couldn't utter a single syllable. Wang Tianhe, the family lord of Zhonghai Wang family, a lawyer, and a billionaire in charge of tens of billions of assets, had knelt before Jiang Tian and begged for forgiveness. It wasn't hard to explain why Jiang Tian wasn't afraid of Yi Qida. The Yi family was indeed more powerful than the Wang family, but only by an order of magnitude. What about you? He Junyi, do you still want to drive me out of Singapore? Jiang Tian looked at He Junyi and asked coldly. He Junyi's face stiffened. He didn't want to kneel down, but he still hadn't figured out how to defend himself. Provoking and threatening me again and again, you must be tired of living. Jiang Tian had already exhaled and spoke. An enormous pressure descended from the sky. Crack. He Junyi was pressed to the ground like a toad. He couldn't even lift his head. Master Kong, please forgive me. I won't do it again. He Junyi wagged his tail and begged for mercy. His face was covered in tears and snot. He was so scared that he peed in his pants. Go to hell. Jiang Tian sneered. He swatted at He Junyi as if he was swatting a fly. Crack. He Junyi was smashed into a pile of meat paste. His body was twisted like a piece of paper on the ground. Blood and broken bones scattered in all directions. The crowd was dead silent. Everyone's hair stood on end. They felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. No one had expected Jiang Tian to kill He Junyi. He Junyi was one of the most powerful young masters in Singapore. He was even more powerful than Guo Changsheng. However, when they thought about how Jiang Tian had destroyed the Guo family and was the Grand Preceptor of Singapore, they felt that it was only natural. Grand Preceptor Jiang, you have killed the evildoer and saved the people from harm. We admire you greatly. As expected, Li Xianlong didn't question Jiang Tian's words. He led the Singaporean officials and bowed deeply to Jiang Tian. Han Yen stood behind Jiang Tian. Her body trembled and her heart almost stopped beating. However, in the next second, her eyes lit up. She had never thought that the Grand Preceptor of Singapore, an overlord on the dark roll, would be so powerful. She knew that she had made the right bet. She had placed all her bets on the Grand Preceptor of Singapore. She would be able to do whatever she wanted in Singapore. On the other hand, Li Xianlong stood up and looked at Yi Qida and the others with resentment and hostility. He said solemnly, Mr. Yi, the delegation from Zhonghai has offended the State Preceptor of Singapore and humiliated the national pride of Singapore. The government of Singapore would like to express our strong protest and dissatisfaction. The free trade zone between Singapore and Zhonghai is hereby voided and will never be mentioned again. But the agreement has already been signed. How can it be null and void? Yi Qida couldn't believe it. The establishment of the free trade zone was not only the result of his theory, but also the achievement of his son, Yi Weihao. For this political achievement, the Yi family could be said to have racked their brains and worked hard. After a year and 4 months of extremely difficult negotiations, they finally reached a cooperation framework. But now the agreement had been nullified. His son was no longer a hero, but a sinner. His promotion to the central government was all for naught. He knew that all of this was because of Jiang Tian, but now that he had to lower his head and beg Jiang Tian for mercy, he really couldn't get over the hurdle in his heart. Thinking of this, his heart was burning with anxiety. He looked at Secretary Shen, wanting him to speak up for him. However, Secretary Shen only lowered his head and looked at the deck as if there were ants fighting on the deck. Seeing this, Yi Qida's heart sank. He understood what Secretary Shen meant. Right now, Secretary Shen didn't have the ability to persuade Jiang Tian. He could only rely on Jiang Tian. It could be said that in the eyes of the Wuxia higher-ups, Jiang Tian's importance far surpassed the Yi family, the Wang family, and so on. With that thought in mind, Yi Qida smiled sadly, shook his head and sighed. Forget it, forget it. The old man has seen the glory of a peerless scholar today. It's the old man who can't see the real person's face. Master Kong, please spare the old man's life on account of the fact that he only has one grandson. He bowed deeply to Jiang Tian with his fists clasped, and 2 lines of bitter and humiliating tears flowed down his cheeks. Elder Yi. In an instant, countless people cried out involuntarily, and they were filled with the sorrow of a fox mourning the death of a rabbit. Compared to a super powerhouse like Jiang Tian, what great authority! What great wealth! They were not even worth mentioning. Grandpa! Yi Haochen's eyes were red, and he wanted to rush forward and fight Jiang Tian. Ignorant child, do you want to anger me to death? Why haven't you kneeled down to Grandmaster Jiang yet? Yi Qida's entire body trembled as he berated furiously. Yi Haochen's body stiffened, and his face kept changing. It was red, then purple, and finally turned pale. He bent his knees, knelt, and lowered his arrogant head. With a trembling voice he said, Grandmaster Jiang, I was wrong. The entire deck was dead silent. Even the sound of a needle dropping could be heard. In a blink of an eye, in everyone's eyes, the brightly lit skyscrapers in the distance, the night view of the strait nearby, the background of the entire world blurred, faded, and eventually disappeared without a trace. Only the figure standing proudly on the deck was left, almost like an immortal god. Immediately, the delegation from Zhonghai left the cruise ship. Although Singapore didn't send out an eviction order out of courtesy, they knew that they were not welcome. Only Han Yan and Mai Shilong were allowed to stay in Zhonghai. Then they saw Tang Weiman and the elites of Yangqing City appear on the deck. They were talking and laughing with Li Xianlong and the other officials of Singapore, and Jiang Tian. People like Bai Choufei, Tai Minghuang, Tang Xiaozi, and even their fathers were there. Before they had been suppressed by Yi Haochen and the others, but now, they could hold their heads up high. They also worshipped Jiang Tian. In their eyes, Jiang Tian was even more powerful than them, and he was like a god. The Grand Preceptor of Singapore, the reigning champion of Singapore, had suppressed all the tycoons of Zhonghai. How powerful was he? The free trade zone between Singapore and Wuxia will be built in Yangqing City. We will exempt all tariffs. Li Xianlong shook Tang Weiman's hand and said with a warm smile, Thank you, Premier Li. Let's work together and contribute to the economic development of both countries. Tang Weiman said with a smile. No. Secretary Tang, you are too polite. Any friend of Master Kong is a friend of Singapore. Li Xianlong said with a serious face. Chapter 338. The music started again, and the lights shone brightly. The cooperation between Singapore and Wuxia had opened a new chapter. Yi Qida heard everything from afar. He was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Luckily, he didn't fall to the ground. Many of the Zhonghai tycoons kept a distance from the Yi family, as if they were afraid of being seen by Jiang Tian. These people were all shrewd people. They knew that after this incident, the Yi family's political future was basically over. They might even be uprooted by Jiang Tian. Idiot. Back in the hotel room, Yi Weihao slapped Yi Haochen in the face. He gritted his teeth, his face full of anger and sorrow. Yi Haochen staggered from the slap. Blood spurted out of his nostrils. His face was red, and a few fingerprints appeared on it. Dad, I know I was wrong. Yi Haochen's eyes were filled with fear. He covered his face and lowered his head. I told you to be careful when you came to Singapore, especially not to mess around. But you didn't listen. Yi Weihao was so angry that he clutched his chest. His face twisted in pain as he gasped for air. If you had remembered my words before you started this, you wouldn't have caused so much trouble. You wouldn't have put a knife in someone else's hand and stabbed your grandfather in the chest. When will you grow some brains? Dad, don't worry. I was wrong, okay? Yi Haochen panicked when he saw that his father was about to have a heart attack. He quickly took out some medicine for his father and comforted him. Whatever you say, I'll listen to you. Yi Weihao calmed himself down and waited for the pain in his head to pass. Then he relaxed his brows and said to his son earnestly, Will you be satisfied and happy when you see your father's position taken away by someone else? Do you think that your grandfather and your father are really willing to run in front of a little bastard, who hasn't even grown out his hair yet, and speak in a humble manner? You have to understand that the situation is more important than the person. Dad, I understand. But you have to remember, no matter what you encounter in the future, don't make a big deal out of it. Don't worry about Jiqing investment for the time being. The central government has repeatedly asked the children of party and government officials to be strictly prohibited from doing business. At least on the surface, you have to break away from Jiqing investment. I think you shouldn't stay in Zhonghai for the time being. Don't even think about staying in Singapore. With him here, you can't do anything. I won't mess around anymore, okay? Yi Haochen panicked when he heard that he was going to be kicked out of Zhonghai. He begged for mercy. I won't care about the company anymore. I'll stay at home. Yi Weihao said with a heavy heart. I wouldn't allow you to leave Zhonghai unless I had no other choice. But Special Envoy Shen didn't even inform me that Yangcheng is going to take over the construction of the free trade zone. Do you know what this means? Yi Haochen wasn't completely clueless. Born in a family of officials, he had been exposed to all kinds of scheming people since he was young. It could even be said that he was very smart. The reason why he fell into the pit today was because he was used to being a tyrant in Zhonghai and was slapped in the face by Jiang Tian. His brain was filled with anger, and there was a blind spot in his vision. This was the reason why he could think calmly. The central government is so disappointed in us that no one is willing or has the guts to leak the news to us. Yi Weihao knew that nothing else mattered. The most fatal thing was losing the trust of the higher-ups. This meant that the Yi family would be hated by everyone in the future. No one would help them. I want you to leave Zhonghai. Not to go anywhere else, but to Yanjing. After you arrive in Yanjing, don't cause any more trouble for me. But you have to be willing to spend money. No matter how much money you have to be willing to spend it. Millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, throw it all out. Don't be sad. I don't think I need to teach you how to spend money and who to spend it on, right? The more money you spend in Yanjing, the more we can take back the initiative. I understand. Yi Haochen nodded with a gloomy face. His heart was abnormally heavy. It's good that you understand. Hurry up and leave. Yi Weihao closed his eyes tiredly and waved his hand, telling his son to return home. Secretary Shen, thank you for coming. In the banquet hall on the top floor of the cruise ship, Jiang Tian raised his glass to Secretary Shen. He looked down at the waves of the Malacca Strait. It's my duty. Secretary Shen smiled politely. However, Secretary Shen's understanding of me is beyond my imagination. Jiang Tian smiled. It's not strange at all. Other than being the special envoy and secretary of the Great Chief, I have another identity. What? Shen Mange is my sister. So that's how it is. That's not strange, Jiang Tian said with a smile. I propose a toast to Mr. Jiang on behalf of the Great Chief. I hope that Master Kong can continue to guard Wuxia and make new contributions to the friendship between Singapore and Wuxia. Secretary Shen raised his glass and smiled. Definitely. Jiang Tian drank the red wine in his glass in one gulp. When the dust of the Princess Jenny's incident had settled down, the dark world was in an uproar as soon as the news of the great changes in Singapore spread. Kong Taichu killed Wang Chongyan and Wei Mian of the Chinese Society of Singapore and took control of the Chinese society. As soon as this news appeared, it swept across the dark world like a hurricane. Many experts were shocked. Wang Chongyan. His status was too special. He was a grandmaster who had been famous since the Republic of China. He was Commander Dai's right-hand man, and was in charge of the Blue Cloth Society. Back in Zhonghai, he was on par with Du Yuexing and Huang Jinrong. He was a dual cultivator of martial arts and Dharma spells. He was of the same generation as Yi Tianren. He had fought with Yi Tianren many years ago. The Chinese Society of Singapore was even more powerful than the Chinese Society of Singapore. It had a longer history than the Chinese Society of Singapore. It had many transcendent grandmasters and Dharma enlightening spellcasters. It also had an alliance with the Nanyang Dark Art Masters. Back then, it was rumored that after the Singapore Chinese Society was integrated, it would be on par with the Pantheon, Blue Storm, Winter Soldier, and Cherry Blossom Society, all of which had superpowers backing them. Who would have thought that just as the stage was built, Jiang Taichu smashed it into smithereens before she could even sing a single line? It was a shocking development. Kong Taichu is too powerful. This is simply invincible, advancing triumphantly all the way. Some overlords exclaimed in disbelief. They couldn't believe that the words on the computer screen were real. Yeah, Kong Taichu is too powerful. It's simply a bloodbath, a mad slaughter. I wasn't convinced when the CIA ranked him as the third most powerful man on the dark roll. But now, I am convinced. He is so powerful. Kong Taechu is invincible. 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 From now on, I am going to be Kong Taechu's diehard fan. Shock, excitement, admiration, and reverence. But no one dared to doubt the authenticity of the news, because it was posted by the Observer. Then more details were revealed. Jiang Taichu had killed his way into the Guo family in Singapore and suppressed hundreds of police officers. Then he went straight to the headquarters of the Chinese Society in Singapore and massacred them. Jiang Taichu is truly the most stunning expert of the present age. It can be said that in the past half a century, there hasn't been such a powerful figure before. Someone recalled history, feeling even more reverence for Jiang Tian. Ever since the advent of nuclear weapons, the immortal state warriors had gone into hiding. Assassinations of politicians and tycoons still existed, but they were done in secret. No one dared to go against the government in broad daylight. Even if it was a small country, it still made people wary. No matter how strong you are, how many nails can you crush if your whole body is made of iron? However, Kong Taechu was not one of them. Not only did he kill many Singapore police officers, but he also suppressed the Guo family and suppressed the Singapore Chinese Society. He was even able to defend his title as the state preceptor. This was simply too shocking. Kong Taechu is not someone to be trifled with. Someone said with a grave face. The Chinese Society of Singapore was suppressed because of the battle on Mount Everest. But in that battle, Jiang Taichu clearly had the upper hand and obtained a complete victory. This is the demeanor of an expert. When Jiang Taichu is angered, millions of corpses will fall, and blood will dye 10,000 li. An expert deeply agreed and sighed with great alarm. Yeah, that's terrifying. Jiang Taichu is someone who will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. If he has a grudge, he will not let it pass. I think no overlord would dare to cause trouble in Singapore or Southeast Asia from now on. This is Kong Taechu's territory. Many experts agreed in their hearts and decided to withdraw their forces from Singapore and Southeast Asia immediately. Even if they didn't withdraw, they had to contact the Chinese Society of Singapore and express their goodwill to Kong Taechu. What is Kong Taechu's level of cultivation now? I think he is at least half a step away from immortal state. Someone asked. As soon as these words were spoken, all the experts went silent, and they felt horrified and uneasy. Could it be that Kong Taechu was really half a step away from immortal state? Many people were speechless and found it hard to believe. Kong Taechu is most likely half a step away from immortal state. Wang Zhongyan had reached the phenomenal success of the transcendent state during the Republic of China. He had dominated Southeast Asia for decades and had fused the dark arts with Wuxia's martial arts. If he hadn't reached the peak of transcendent state, or half a step away from immortal state, then he would have wasted his time. If Kong Taechu could kill him with ease, then what could he be if not half a step away from immortal state? In the end, the Observer replied. The post sent chills down the spines of all the overlords sitting behind the computer screen. Half a step away from immortal state. Immortal state was the pinnacle of the world. There might not be one immortal state master in 10 million people. To enter the deity realm, not only did one need to be extremely talented, one also needed to be extremely lucky. Ordinary people would find it difficult to reach immortal state, or even martial arts. Take Wuxia's martial arts system as an example. 1 in 10,000 people could enter martial arts. 1 in 100,000 could become an internal force master. And 1 in a million could become a transcendent grandmaster. 1 in 10 million, or even 1 in 100 million could reach immortal state. The difficulty of reaching immortal state was even greater than ascending to heaven. Immortal state. Immortal state was an elusive existence. After the advent of nuclear weapons, there were no more legends about immortal state. Even if he was a half-god, he was still a terrifying existence. He was able to command the law with his words, move mountains and fill seas with a wave of his sleeves, and destroy the heavens and the earth with his rage. He was a true powerhouse who could wield many secret arts and martial techniques at his fingertips. Kong Taechu controls the Singapore Wuxia Association. Together with his influence in Wuxia, he already has the power to compete with the Winter Soldiers, Blue Storm, Pantheon Temple, Cherry Blossom Society, and other top organizations in the world. Moreover, I suspect that this is only the first step in Kang Taechu's journey to international domination. This is definitely not the end. Then the observer made such a profound deduction that stunned everyone. Was Kang Taechu going to dominate the world by himself? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.